Chapter 831. Awareness. Just as his sword was about to reach its target, Lin Feng decided not to attack. He slowly flew down to the ground where the silhouette bathing in Buddha's lights was. The Buddha wasn't surprised as he said, "You should give up, the demon seal stone is way too powerful. Keep up your strength, for danger lurks at every corner here. I sincerely hope that you will get out of here safely." "Do you really mean that?" Lin Feng asked while looking back at the stone. "Of course," the silhouette said, nodding. "Okay, since that's what you want, I will leave now," Lin Feng said while waving at the Buddha. He then turned around and started leaving. Wait, shouted the Buddha after Lin Feng had already ran 1,000 meters away. Lin Feng turned around and looked at that almighty Buddha. Then Lin Feng asked, "Is there anything you would like to talk about?" "Death Valley is a very dangerous place. It is easy to come in but difficult to leave. I have been oppressed here for a very long time, and I've never met anyone who managed to leave Death Valley alive. The fact that you made it here and found me already is a miracle. If you leave, the horrors of the Death Valley will never stop. You should try and break the seal again. If you break it, Death Valley would disappear. If you really can't, then I'll teach you a monstrously powerful skill which should enable you to break it," said the Buddha in majestic way, still bathing in Buddha's lights. "Thank you for your good intentions, but I have to refuse. Even though I am an ordinary person and my powers can't be compared with yours, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I am unable to leave Death Valley. Goodbye." Lin Feng sounded rather self-confident. The Buddha's eyes twinkled for a few seconds, but then he looked normal again. "You only came here to take your treasures back and now you're leaving. It wouldn't be very kind to leave someone in distress now, would it?" The Buddha sounded a little bit cold. Are those words a Buddha would spout? Lin Feng was smiling coldly now. The interlocutor stared at Lin Feng before saying, "How did you notice? You seem too impatient. You said Buddhas could practice cultivation anywhere and didn't care about where they were. You said sitting cross-legged here was an opportunity for you to bring peace to all those suffering souls, and for you to constantly surpass yourself. When I tried to break the seal stone, you seemed to have forgotten those words and became impatient, thus contradicting yourself." "That doesn't mean anything," said that person as calm as before. "Maybe you're right, but it still proves that you are impatient. Therefore, I can see and hear some darkness in you. Buddhas can influence mood, they could drive me to become like them and listen to them. I trust them. If your voice didn't contain that iota of darkness, I would trust you right now, but those strange elements influenced my determination and made me doubt your intentions. At the moment when I attacked the stone, you actually looked so greedy. It was then that you clearly showed your true colors." Lin Feng stopped talking for a few seconds before adding, "What I don't understand is why your Buddha chi is so pure. I can tell that you're not pretending. Considering the fact that you managed to reach such a high cultivation level as a Buddhist cultivator, those dark elements don't make sense." Lin Feng could clearly sense his interlocutor's Buddha chi, and it was absolutely pure. The Buddha's face looked captivating. His voice sounded gentle and pure. Luckily, Lin Feng's determination was strong, and he hadn't obeyed the Buddha. Interesting, said the Buddha while smiling in a strange way. He didn't look as calm and detached as he had before. The Buddha lights disappeared and the Buddha's silhouette became blurry. His silhouette was flickering, sometimes he looked like a Buddha and sometimes like a demon. Golden Buddha lights and darkness kept alternating like the flickering flame of a candle. Finally, a terrifying demon chi appeared. Even though it was oppressed by the demon seal stone, it was still incredible. A terrifying and boundless chi was burning. A demon, it really is a demon. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes while staring at the silhouette in front of him. "Since you found out about my secret, I don't need to beat around the bush anymore. Attack the stone and do as I said, break the seal," the demon said in a deep and loud voice. Even though his power was oppressed, he was still monstrously strong and despised most ordinary cultivators. "Do you think that I would?" said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. "If you don't, I will attack you." In a flash, a terrifying black light rose up in the sky and aimed for Lin Feng's head. Lin Feng unsheathed his sword as rumbling sounds spread in the air. However, his sword couldn't pierce through the black light. The black light looked like a sword made from intent, but it immediately pierced through Lin Feng's head and penetrated into his brain. Lin Feng's head felt like exploding. He released 1,000,000 broken souls and turned them into 1,000,000 indestructible swords. Boom boom explosion sounds were resonating in Lin Feng's brain. His opponent was too strong. What kind of intent was that black light? Luckily, Lin Feng had his broken soul technique which was able to maintain the defensive. The demon was looking at Lin Feng in a furious way. He felt humiliated. His goal, by aiming at Lin Feng's head, was initially to take control of Lin Feng's body, but he had failed. Zerr. The black lights were now devouring Lin Feng's awareness. How could Lin Feng give him this chance? He immediately made the strength of the Haruka and of the Buddha rotate. His myriad of broken souls emitted whistling sounds like 1,000,000 sharp swords. Boom 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 boom. His terrifying attack continued to assault Lin Feng, who felt like he was becoming paralyzed. If it was someone else, someone who didn't have a terrifying intent and powerful soul, they would have died. Of course, if the demon seal stone hadn't been there, Lin Feng would have died already. In the blink of an eye, the demon could have, without moving a single finger, taken control over Lin Feng. Very good. I will see how long you can resist, said the demon while groaning coldly. Rumbling sounds continued spreading in the air. Lin Feng's demon sword started shaking violently as a terrifying demonic energy surfaced. Lin Feng could only watch as his awareness was consumed by the demon's sword. He was turning into a demon again. Sword chi dashed to the skies. Lin Feng was unable to hold his sword, his treasure, and now his opponent was going to take it. So my sword came here because of you, thought Lin Feng. He actually couldn't control the sword because it was still too strong. So what? Lend me your sword, the demon said coldly. His demon energies were rotating in the atmosphere. The demon sword then rose up in the air and began moving towards the demon seal stone. Piss off, Lin Feng sounded furious as he jumped up into the air while holding his own demon seal stone. Boom, the demon seal stone oppressed the demon sword, which immediately came back to him. Lin Feng jumped in front of the stone. Chapter 832. 3 Lives Emperor. It's not so strong, thought Lin Feng, sensing the strength of the demon sword while sealing its energies. Even though the demon could control the sword with his awareness, the seal stone was constricting his full strength. It seems like you won't be able to break the seal on your own, Lin Feng said. The seal stone was infinitely powerful, and a small piece of that stone was already enough to control the demon's sword. Maybe we can make a deal then, said the demon reluctantly. Lin Feng smiled and said, first, give me back my demon sword. Okay, it's no problem because I don't need it, said the demon calmly. Lin Feng grabbed the sword and stabbed it back into his body, sealing it with the stone again. If the sword didn't come out, the demon wouldn't be able to take it. Lin Feng went back to the ground and faced the demon. Even though his strength was oppressed, Lin Feng could still sense some of it. If the demon was freed, he would probably destroy the world. Let's make an exchange, said the demon. What do you want to exchange? Lin Feng asked back. You studied the broken soul skill, which is a part of the wisdom from the 3 lives. I can teach you the real 3 lives skill if you help me break the stone, said the demon. The offer sounded very tempting. The 3 lives skill. The demon surprisingly knew about the 3 lives skill. In the Jade Emperor's hall back in the mysterious world, Lin Feng had studied the 3 lives emperor, and the strength of the Haruka started rotating in his body. Could the strength of the Harukas be related to the 3 lives skill? Who are you? Why would you even know about the 3 lives skill? Lin Feng didn't quite trust the demon. Mwahahaha. The demon started laughing frantically. His entire body was surrounded by an infinity of demon chi. Rumbling sounds were spreading everywhere and the ground started cracking apart. It seemed like everything was going to collapse. The gigantic demon seal mountain began shaking violently. Some cracks started to appear on it as it really looked like it was going to break. Break! Shouted the demon furiously. Rumbling and explosion sounds were booming. Lin Feng ran back quickly as he watched. However, at the last moment, the word seal on the mountain started emitting dazzling lights, and it released oppressive energies which surrounded the demon. He was unable to break the stone beyond that point. The broken quickly repaired themselves now. How terrifying, thought Lin Feng. It seemed like even the great sage equal of heaven wouldn't have been able to destroy that mountain. I wonder who made that stone. Did you see? I almost broke it. You asked me where I learnt the 3 lives skill. I will tell you, Wu Ming, the 3 lives emperor taught it to me, said the demon slowly. The strength of the Haruka was rotating around him. He was a half Buddha and half demon. Lin Feng smiled and said, I'm leaving. Goodbye. After that, Lin Feng turned around and started leaving. Wait, I am not done talking, shouted the demon. It seems like you already know a lot about the 3 lives skill. Maybe you already knew that it was the 3 lives emperor's skill. 1 life becomes 3. The body can turn into a Buddha, a demon and a cultivator. All 3 in one body. I am the demon of the 3 lives skill, so I am extremely familiar with the skill. The demon of the 3 lives skill. Lin Feng stopped and slowly turned around. Maybe he wasn't lying. Because he could share a body with the Buddha. He had learnt how to use Buddha's purity, and could use authentic Buddha intent. The real 3 lives demon's power ended here with his power sealed? The 3 lives skill is incredible. You studied the broken soul skill, so you must have sensed how incredible it is. Imagine if you practiced the 3 lives skill, you would have 3 bodies. You would be indestructible. Now, because you will free me, I will teach it to you and you will someday become an emperor. The demon's offer sounded very tempting, but Lin Feng groaned and bit his lips. Don't try to tempt me with your evil intent. Otherwise I'll leave. No problem. Anyways, imagine it. You're a little nobody right now and you have the opportunity to obtain the 3 lives emperor's skill book. Why are you still hesitating? Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. He had to ask, we still have to agree on how we will negotiate. If I free you first, you're probably going to kill me. If you give me the book first, I might leave without freeing you. What should we do? I'm the 3 emperor's demon. I don't care about your life because you're only an insect to me. Why would I care? If you free me, not only will I teach you the 3 lives skill but other skills as well to express my gratitude. I don't believe you, said Lin Feng while shaking his head. How could he trust a demon? You fooled me with your Buddha chi once. Then you tried to pollute my intent. Why should I trust you? If I release you, killing me would be simple. Just like you said, I'm an insect in your eyes. You don't believe me still? So even if I give you the book first, will you still not trust me then? Asked the demon. I suppose there are no solutions, Lin Feng said indifferently. Therefore you should trust me, shouted the demon furiously. Okay, then trust me too and give me the book first, said Lin Feng determined. You're really annoying. Okay, I will give you the book, but I will only teach you 1/3 of the skill. If you're happy with it, I will teach you the entire skill. The demon looked happy, almost as if he was still hiding something. I agree. Lin Feng was excited now. The 3 lives skill is incredibly powerful. It contains a myriad of mysteries. I will have to enter your awareness to teach you the skill and carve it in your memories, said the demon. The demon was monstrously strong. He could use his own awareness like a sword and kill people without being seen. Letting him enter his brain was extremely dangerous. If he wanted, he could immediately take control of Lin Feng's body and steal it. Think carefully, the 3 lives skill is monstrously powerful. I can't even describe how powerful it is with words. The demon continued to tempt Lin Feng when he saw that he was hesitating. He didn't look so impatient though, he remained calm now. He was certain that Lin Feng wouldn't miss such an opportunity. Chapter 833 Too Many Requests. Lin Feng didn't reply immediately, instead he slightly frowned. Lin Feng didn't know how strong the demon was. Maybe he had hidden some skills and would be able to kill Lin Feng with one attack. Lin Feng was hesitating, but if what the demon was saying was true, Lin Feng would regret it for the rest of his life. The demon didn't look impatient and wasn't putting pressure on Lin Feng. He was giving him time to think it over. When a cultivator breaks through to the Tian Qi layer, they control their own soul. Apart from a stronger soul, they can also attack others' awareness and will possess a better defense, right? Asked Lin Feng. The demon nodded and said, indeed, Tian-level cultivators can fuse together with the sky and earth. A divine power fuses together with their soul, and their awareness becomes godly. With that godly awareness, killing becomes easier. One thought is enough to slaughter your enemies. Godly awareness must be understood to become powerful. One must also possess powerful offensive and defensive skills, especially Tian-level skills. Am I right? Lin Feng asked. He had encountered many Tian-level cultivators, but even though their cultivation level was high, none of them had godly awareness. It wasn't because they didn't wish to, it was because they didn't know how to use such powers. Indeed, said the demon, nodding. Godly awareness enabled cultivators to kill in an even more ferocious way. If you want inside my brain, I need to understand those things. Do you know what I mean? Lin Feng said calmly. The demon smiled and said, "You are very smart. You noticed that I was attacking you with my awareness, so now you want to learn how to do that. If you learn how to attack with your awareness, coupled with your incredibly strong soul, average Tian-level cultivators will have a hard time fighting against you. I hope you can teach me that," said Lin Feng, bowing in front of the demon. Lin Feng wanted to become even more powerful. He had the 3 Lives Emperor's demon in front of him. Missing the chance to learn from him would have been such a pity. "All right. I will teach you the godly awareness skill as well, but as before, I need to penetrate into yours to teach it to you." The demon remained indifferent. To Lin Feng, such a skill was priceless, but to the demon, those skills were futile. He didn't mind teaching those skills to Lin Feng. Learning the godly awareness and the 3 lives skills should only take a minute, right? You're quite prudent. A minute is enough to print the skills in your brain, yes, said the demon. Okay, thank you, sir, Lin Feng said while closing his eyes. He couldn't act careless now, so he released his broken souls, which condensed in his brain to protect himself. Anything could happen, and Lin Feng had to use all his strength to avoid an accident. A second later, Lin Feng sensed the demon entering in his brain. The demon's godly awareness was incredible and contained a mighty power. But because his strength was sealed, his godly awareness was much weaker than what it should have been. Otherwise, Lin Feng's awareness would have been crushed. Lin Feng's awareness was transforming. Suddenly, a silhouette appeared, and that person was smiling darkly. Immediately after, they left Lin Feng's awareness. Lin Feng opened his eyes and was very pleased. The godly awareness skill is incredible. Now my soul is extremely powerful. Godly awareness could create a copper bell whose ring could stun people and even erase their soul. At the same time, it can turn into a copper bell used for defense. Even though you haven't broken through to the Tianqi layer yet, your soul is already extremely strong and you can fuse together with the earth, therefore you can already start practicing it, but its power won't be as strong compared to if you broke through to the Tianqi layer. If you want to practice it now, I can wait, the demon explained. He was an incredible cultivator. He obviously understood why Lin Feng wanted to learn the godly awareness. His first reason was to be stronger in the future. His second reason was to protect his awareness and prevent it from being attacked or stolen. Thank you for your understanding, said Lin Feng, nodding. His silhouette flickered and he moved a few kilometers away and sat down cross-legged. Then, he started practicing the godly awareness skill. Just like the demon said, Lin Feng hadn't broken through to the Tianqi layer yet. Even though he could rely on his powerful soul, he wasn't able to deploy the maximum power of the skill. His awareness couldn't move too far away from his body. Unless his opponent was directly in front of him, Lin Feng couldn't attack them. However, he could always use it for defense. That skill, even though it was quite good, it wasn't an unfathomable skill. Otherwise, Lin Feng wouldn't have been able to learn it. After 3 days, Lin Feng stopped practicing it, stood up and walked towards the demon. That demon was patient, but to him, 3 days was nothing. He had been waiting there for so many years. All in all, even those years had passed by quickly because was practicing cultivation the whole time. How do you like it? Asked the demon. Even though the demon was surrounded by evil lights, he actually looked like a normal old man now. It was as if he had become less evil after staying under the influence of the seal stone for so many years, or maybe he had just grown old. Master, I have another request. Forgive me for being so demanding, said Lin Feng, bowing in a very respectful way. The demon suddenly looked tense and uncomfortable. What is it now? As if Lin Feng hadn't sensed his interlocutor's unease, he said slowly, Master, releasing you will be something earth-shattering. Therefore, please teach me a powerful agility technique so that I can leave quickly once you're free. You're a sly boy. You really know how to take advantage of somebody's misfortune. The demon looked annoyed. Lin Feng was clearly taking advantage of his misfortune, but that was understandable. Lin Feng was even more shameless than the demon. Master, please be magnanimous enough to forgive me, said Lin Feng, very respectfully bowing again. The demon was furious, but he had no choice but to accept Lin Feng's request. Okay, I will teach you a powerful agility technique. It is a technique created in the antiquity as well. It is the Xiao Yao Step Agility Technique. It is found in the Xiao Yao Agility Technique book. But now you have to promise me something, that this is your last request, said the demon, feeling uncomfortable. Surprisingly, the demon wanted to teach him the Xiao Yao Agility Technique. The same Xiao Yao Agility Technique book which Tang Yu had heard about in the mysterious world. It contained a technique called the Xiao Yao Step Technique that was supposedly incredible. Lin Feng and Tang Yu had even stolen it from an opponent, but it was an incomplete version. What the demon wanted to teach Lin Feng was probably the complete version. Lin Feng was very excited, but his facial expression didn't reveal his feelings. He looked just as calm as before. Thank you very much, master. I promise you that it is my last request. Lin Feng slowly bowed and walked backwards. Just like a moment before, the demon entered Lin Feng's awareness, but this time Lin Feng could protect himself with his broken souls and the awareness bronze bells. But the demon didn't try anything tricky. He just entered Lin Feng's brain and passed on the Xiao Yao Step Technique onto him. When the demon left Lin Feng's awareness, Lin Feng saw the technique and was delighted. As expected, it was the Xiao Yao Step Technique, and it contained one more page than what Lin Feng obtained before. As expected, the technique was complete. Chapter 834. Infinite Demon Print. The Xiao Yao Step contained 81 different sorts of steps, of which each possessed different variations, 361 variations to be exact. My cultivation level is still too low, thought Lin Feng, studying the agility technique. As he was learning more and more powerful skills, he was realizing that his cultivation level remained a problem. He couldn't understand the variations of the last step, so he couldn't really learn the skill. If Lin Feng managed to master the entire authentic and antique Xiao Yao agility technique, he would become impossible to hit. No cultivator of the Tianqi layer would dare stand in his way. However, Lin Feng possessed a very strong soul. He entered his dark world infused with the earth. In his vast consciousness, there was a silhouette using the Xiao Yao agility technique, as if they were trying to teach it to Lin Feng. And Lin Feng was unconsciously following them. Strangely, it seemed like that silhouette was himself, Lin Feng. 2 days later, Lin Feng stopped practicing. His eyes were closed as his silhouette started flickering about. The Xiao Yao Step Technique allowed him to move freely, and so quickly that multiple shadows appeared in the air. No one could see where he actually was because it was impossible to distinguish Lin Feng from all the silhouettes in the air. After 7 days, Lin Feng could move with incredible speed. Coupled with his wind intent, he was now faster than any cultivator of the Tianqi layer. Lin Feng was convinced that his cultivation level was now comparable with that of the legendary rock. Perhaps he was even faster than the rock. A silhouette appeared in front of the Demon Seal Mountain. The demon was still there, and of course, the stone was oppressing his power still. Did you learn it? Asked the demon while smiling. Lin Feng nodded and said, yes. Okay, now open your awareness. I will teach you the first part of the 3 lives skill. After you save me, I will teach you the complete version. You will then be able to combine 3 lives into one. You'll become a Buddha, a demon, as well as yourself. Nobody will compare to you anymore with that skill, said the demon in a tempting way. Lin Feng's heart was beating faster, but he remained cool-headed. Please, said Lin Feng while sitting down cross-legged and opening his awareness. He was still using his bronze bells to protect himself. If the demon attacked him, Lin Feng would be able to wake up. He couldn't give the demon any opportunities. The 3 lives skill was much more valuable than the Xiao Yao agility technique. The demon's awareness entered Lin Feng's awareness and began printing the skill on Lin Feng's soul. Finally, the skill was so powerful that it made Lin Feng shake. His bronze bell remained intact, so he wasn't injured. Lin Feng was very determined to get this skill. After a long time, the demon finally came out. Lin Feng was motionless, still sitting down cross-legged, and was inspecting the memories. The first part of the skill was the demon portion, and it was vast and brutal. It contained the explosive power of the earth and the sky. Lin Feng started practicing. Lin Feng was a drop of water in an ocean of awareness. He made the strength of the Haruka rotate with an incredible force. It wasn't long before his flesh became as hard as iron. He then turned into a demon while sitting in an ocean of demon energy. The demon chi became more potent. Demon light started twinkling all around Lin Feng and dashed to the skies. Everlasting through the ages, a mystical voice spread in the air. It was that of a demon. Lin Feng looked calm while surrounded by the incredible demonic chi. Reigning over the universe, said the demon in a strange and mystical way again. His entire body was diffusing an infinite amount of light. Everything is evil. I am the beginning and the end. There is nothing that I cannot do. There is nothing that is forbidden. I can kill all deities, said the demon. The demon chi made Lin Feng's body rise up. The power I lend you is for me to crush the entire world. Infinite demon print kill, shouted the demon furiously. The terrifying pure chi of the earth and the sky turned into demon chi which could destroy the very earth and the sky. Lin Feng had completely turned into a demon. Infinite demon print kill, shouted a terrifying voice again. This time the terrifying demon chi was released. There were no rumbling sounds but the sky and the earth were collapsing. The terrifying demon print turned into a mountain carved from demonic energies. Boom! The demon print crashed onto the word seal on the demon seal mountain, which suddenly became distorted. The mountain suddenly started shaking violently and a crack appeared. Mwahaha mwahaha! The demon raised his head towards the sky and laughed frantically. He began grabbing pieces of that mountain and throwing them around. At that moment, Lin Feng opened his eyes and became normal again. He looked down at his hands. He was lost. When he had practiced the 3 lives skill, had felt like he couldn't control himself. He turned into a demon and carried out a terrifying attack. When Lin Feng saw the mountain, he understood. No wonder that the demon had listened to and obeyed him. He even taught him the godly awareness and the Xiaoyao step technique. The demon never trusted Lin Feng. So how could he put his destiny in Lin Feng's hands? He taught him the demon part of the 3 lives skill so Lin Feng could turn into the exact same demon as him. A moment before, the voice Lin Feng was hearing was the demon's. Both of them had been in symbiosis and Lin Feng was unable to control himself. The demon had borrowed Lin Feng's body to attack the mountain. Lin Feng had, in the end, acted as a puppet for the demon. I'm off. Lin Feng used his Xiaoyao agility technique. His silhouette flickered and he disappeared into the distance. He didn't want to stay there any longer. Chapter 835. Boom boom boom. Terrifying rumbling sounds spread in the air as the earth and sky seemed to collapse. The animals in the Death Valley were crawling and those which could fly couldn't fly very high in the sky. Cracking and explosion sounds kept spreading in the air and gigantic cracks were appearing everywhere in the valley. The most terrifying part were the black clouds covering the entire sky. No, only the valley, the clouds were reaching into the outside world. At that moment outside the Death Valley, there were several people from the East Sea Dragon Palace. They were almost sure that Lin Feng would die inside but just in case he stayed at the periphery to run away they had to wait. At that moment, they raised their heads and saw the black demon clouds expanding outwards with incredible force. What was going on? That chi seemed to be coming from the depths of the Death Valley. They glanced at each other looking scared. Nobody could survive inside of Death Valley. There was, according to legends, a gigantic demon seal stone in the Death Valley, and a demon whose powers were sealed. But those were only legends and nobody really knew what was inside. However, at that moment it seemed like the legends were true. It really seemed like a demon chi was emanating from Death Valley. Boom boom boom. Explosions sounded, the ground was shaking violently, and even those outside of the Death Valley could sense it clearly. Ha ha ha. The 3 lives demon have finally emerged. My powers have been sealed for thousands of years, but now I'm going to take back everything that belongs to me, said the demon extremely loudly. His voice resonated thousands and thousands of kilometers away into the distance. The 3 lives demon has come back. They all looked in the direction of the valley. There was a pitch-black silhouette in the sky surrounded by black clouds. The black silhouette then jumped higher up in the sky and entered the hurricane made of black clouds. And then no one could see it anymore. Lin Feng finally came to halt. He was drenched in sweat from running away. He had stopped to look at the sky. The demon had left, surprisingly. He lent him his strength to break the seal and then left. Before the demon left, Lin Feng sensed that the demon looked at him with murderous intentions. Lin Feng was sweating from fear. He knew he couldn't rival the 3 lives demon. Maybe the demon considered Lin Feng too inferior and couldn't be bothered killing a nobody. Or maybe he was grateful that Lin Feng lent him his body to break the seal. Lin Feng didn't know why the demon spared him, but it no longer mattered. He had obtained incredible skills and techniques. Lin Feng looked back at the broken demon seal stone and ran towards the broken pieces of stone. 2 minutes later, Lin Feng arrived where the demon had broken the stone. The gigantic demon seal mountain had exploded. Pieces of it were everywhere. Even though it was completely broken, Lin Feng couldn't help but admire that incredible stone. Even though it was broken, it hadn't turned into powder. Lin Feng grabbed a piece on the ground. It was broken, but upon closer inspection it seemed like it could heal itself. What surprised Lin Feng was that a word had appeared on the stone, seal, and it still contained an oppressive energy. No wonder the stone was considered a priceless treasure. It could even heal itself. Lin Feng grabbed the stone and looked at the place where the demon was trapped. There was a huge hole where a large, evil-looking tree was now growing. Several Bodhi were hanging from the tree. They were black and contained a terrifying demon chi. Cultivators of the Tian Chi layer, when practicing in seclusion and if their intent was strong enough, could produce intent crystals. Zun cultivators, when practicing, could understand abstruse energy, and if they practiced long enough, they could produce abstruse crystals. The 3 lives emperor had practiced there for 1,000 years. He was demoniac, so of course, it wasn't possible for him to produce intent or abstruse crystals when practicing. Instead, these demon Bodhi were formed. From the legends dating back to antiquity, the strongest cultivators in the world could produce precious treasures while practicing. They could produce Buddha Bodhi, while demons produce demon Bodhis. Those are treasures to those who practice demon skills, thought Lin Feng. His eyes were twinkling resplendently. He immediately grabbed all the demon Bodhis. Vis-a-vis. A terrifying death and demon chi surrounded these demon Bodhi. Lin Feng grabbed some more demon seal stones, small ones, big ones. Afterwards he looked around him and found that he was surrounded by animals. The demon was gone and he had left behind the demon Bodhi. Those animals had sensed them and had rushed over. Surprisingly, there was nothing there now, only a human being. Shit, cursed Lin Feng. Those animals' bodies were like iron. Lin Feng couldn't win against them and they possessed death chi to slowly whittle him away. Even though they were low-leveled with their death chi, they could still kill seasoned cultivators. If Lin Feng hadn't sensed their death chi when he went into the depths of the valley, he would have died. Fortunately, he had sensed their chi and used his palace to protect himself. If someone else had gone into the valley, even someone stronger than Lin Feng, they probably would have died. Bzzz. There was a terrifying wind as Lin Feng suddenly felt like suffocating. Lin Feng frowned and looked at a gigantic beast approaching. What a terrifying crow. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. That crow must have been the king of the crows. When Lin Feng first came into Death Valley, the king of the crows hadn't appeared. Maybe because he thought too little of a tiny cultivator of the Xianqi layer, Lin Feng didn't deserve its attention. Chapter 836. Crisis in Ganyu. Lin Feng jumped up in the sky using his Xiao Yao agility technique. His body turned into a shadow as danced in the sky with incredible speed. Lin Feng couldn't fly any higher because a group of crows blocked his way in the sky. It looked like a web of death trying to capture Lin Feng like a fish. The Jade Emperor's palace appeared in Lin Feng's hand. It contained a terrifying imperial chi which dispersed the death chi as well as the crows. Lin Feng's palace dashed to the skies, opening the way, and then turned into a heart again. Lin Feng turned back into a shadow and used his Xiao Yao step technique to fly away. He was trying to leave the Death Valley. Roar! Terrifying rays of death chi continued appearing. Lin Feng was just starting to realize how truly terrifying the Death Valley was. Many gigantic wild beasts were there and their death chi was terrifying. The beasts hadn't even neared him, but he could already sense their chi. Lin Feng grabbed a demon Bodhi and immediately swallowed it. A terrifying strength started flowing in Lin Feng's body. He felt like all of this power was going to explode inside him. Ka-kacha! His bones were crackling, his eyes became colder. The death chi couldn't corrode his body anymore, and he couldn't even sense it anymore. His long hair, his entire body, he looked like a real demon. Boom! Lin Feng rose up in the air with incredible speed. However, the beasts were faster, especially when they saw that Lin Feng had eaten one of the bodhi. The bodhis are on the tree down there, go and pick some. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled. A bodhi appeared in his hand and he threw it away. In that time, 2 more demon bodhi had grown on the tree. Those beasts went insane when they saw that. They suddenly turned around as if they had forgotten about Lin Feng. As they neared the tree, a great war started. Lin Feng took advantage of the chaos to run farther away, but as he was getting away, a few silhouettes appeared. Those who were outside of the valley, the strong cultivators of the East Sea Dragon Palace, had seen the demon leave the valley. After that, they suddenly became very interested in seeing what was in the valley. Was there still something inside? Lin Feng previously entered the valley and surprisingly hadn't died. He had probably survived and was responsible for the current chaos of Death Valley. Surprisingly, you haven't died. One of the strong cultivators from the East Sea Dragon Palace saw Lin Feng and released a terrifying deadly energy. He had a cold smile on his face as he threw himself at Lin Feng. Lin Feng might possess a treasure which previously belonged to the Jade Emperor, so he needed to be cautious. Die. That person was a cultivator of the Tianqi layer. He stretched out his arm, which then turned into dragon claws. The released qi turned into a dragon and wanted to attack Lin Feng. Lin Feng stretched his arm and punched, releasing demonic energies. Boom! When the energies collided, the flood dragon immediately dispersed. Lin Feng's terrifying punch continued on to crash into his opponent's body. Crackling sounds spread in the air. Lin Feng had literally destroyed his opponent's body. After killing that guy, Lin Feng didn't stop moving. His silhouette flickered using the Xiaoyao step technique. His speed was incredible. The others were astonished, even stunned. Lin Feng had killed a cultivator of the Tianqi layer in one punch? How? Lin Feng's fist was terrifying. By the time they realized what happened, Lin Feng was already gone. With his agility technique, he could move faster than any of them. Chase him! Shouted someone furiously. But then, a terrifying death chi appeared from behind them. They turned their heads and saw terrifying beasts emerging from Death Valley and attacking them. They were looking at those human beings in an ice-cold way. The cultivators had the impression they were going to die. Roar! A terrifying chi emerged out of those beasts and enveloped the cultivators. They were losing too much life too quickly. Escape! They finally realized their only chance of surviving was escaping. However, that death chi was sticking to their skin and they were still losing their life slowly. It didn't take long before they all collapsed and died. Those terrifying beasts were gazing into the distance. They wanted to leave the Death Valley, but it seemed like they were scared. It seemed like something was preventing them from leaving. Those beasts perfectly understood that when they were born, that extremely strong cultivator had created them dead already. Their souls were dead and unable to leave Death Valley. If they left the valley, they would actually die. News that the demon broke the seal and left the Death Valley had spread quickly. Many strong cultivators from Ganyu rushed over to the Death Valley. The legends were true. A demon had really been trapped in the Death Valley and his strength was sealed. Maybe the demon left something in the valley after leaving. Not only the disciples of the biggest sects and other influential groups were rushing over there, but their strong cultivators as well. This time, the greatest groups of influence from the Ganyu region would join hands to survive Death Valley. At the same time, there was something else that everyone was wondering. Where were the people who had gone to the mysterious world? They had disappeared. Neither the young cultivators or their entourage had come back. Then some other news had spread. Many people had noticed that most of Tianqi's people had come back. Some influential groups could guess what happened. Concerning the fact that Lin Feng had obtained a precious treasure belonging to the Jade Emperor, nobody knew about it. The people from the East Sea Dragon Palace kept the secret, otherwise it would have been too difficult for them to steal the treasure. Nobody would renounce such a treasure. Lin Feng may be attacked by people from Tianqi if they knew that he had obtained the treasure. While there was a crisis going on in Ganyu which was linked to Lin Feng, the latter was sitting cross-legged in a cave in a mountain. His eyes were closed and he was meditating. He had so many incredible treasures and he needed to break through to the Tianqi layer. Chapter 837. Back to Tianqi. Back at Death Valley, A great war was taking place. The cultivators from the influential groups of Ganyu had gone there together and had brought their beasts to fight. The ground and sky were shaking, to the extent that it seemed that the valley was going to collapse. Those ferocious beasts which possessed death chi were attacking the cultivators ruthlessly. Hundreds of influential groups were joining hands in the Death Valley. However, the result was still tragic. A myriad of disciples had died there, either killed by ferocious beasts or corroded by death chi. If the war was worth it, then Death Valley wouldn't be a forbidden area ever again. This time, the strong cultivators of Ganyu had planned everything. However, an internal war occurred. The cultivators wanted to take control over Death Valley, but all in all, they were still greedy and wildly ambitious. They had found some incredible holy marks and the demon seal stone, which was broken by the 3 lives demon. That stone could oppress the demon's powers when it was whole. Even in pieces, they still contained an incredible power. While the cultivators were battling, there were more and more clouds in the air. The entire region was changing. A terrifying oppressive force fell down. It was so powerful that even Zun cultivators would have crawled on the ground. The entire crowd stopped fighting at the same time and raised their heads towards the sky. What a terrifying energy! Everybody suddenly looked scared by the vortexes in the sky. What was going on? Boom! A terrifying energy fell down from the sky, and at that moment blood splashed violently out of many people's mouths. Zun cultivators fell down to the ground and were shaking violently. They could barely breathe. Had the demon come back? Finally, in one of the vortexes, a face appeared. It looked domineering and majestic like an emperor. What a terrifying cultivator! People kept shaking, but that face didn't care. It just glanced at the pieces of broken stone on the ground. That face then glanced at the crowd for a few seconds, but those people didn't dare to meet his gaze. The terrifying vortex emitted loud rumbling sounds as clouds rolled in waves. The face then disappeared along with the vortex. Eventually everything went back to normal, but the crowd remained motionless for a long time, unable to recover. A moment before, that silhouette in the sky was an emperor. He had sensed the stone, which had oppressed the 3 lives demon's powers, had been broken, so he had come to check it out for himself. An emperor. They had seen a real emperor. Everybody was perfectly aware that the vortex was an emperor's power. The emperor wasn't in Ganyu, so he had imprisoned the demon there. He knew that people in Ganyu were really weak, so he thought that it would be a safe location. He hadn't thought that 1,000 years later, Lin Feng would come to the valley and disturb the peace and tranquility of the region. Relying on the Jade Emperor's palace, he had reached the depths of the Death Valley and had studied the first part of the 3 lives skill. The demon had then borrowed Lin Feng's body to break the word on the stone and free the demon. After the demon left, there was no news as to where he went. His powers had been oppressed for 1,000 years and his chi was still too weak. It would take some time to start causing trouble again. At that moment, Lin Feng was in a cave in the mountains. He was sitting cross-legged and demoniac lights were twinkling around his body. There was a cortex inside Lin Feng's brain which had turned into a gigantic, furious ocean, causing Lin Feng's entire body to change. His chi had now already reached the very peak of the Xian Qi layer. His demon chi was spilling out of the cave as his brain was assaulted by a powerful storm. His body was in fusion with the sky. However, his mind and his awareness couldn't become one. His awareness couldn't turn into genuine godly awareness. Boom, the demon lights and the pure chi dispersed and went back into Lin Feng's body. The cave became calm again, but Lin Feng still hadn't broken through to the Tian Qi layer. It seemed like there was something preventing him from doing so. But Lin Feng knew that he was about to level up. Only by achieving perfect fusion with the sky, setting his heart at absolute peace, having a pure and unpolluted awareness, and practicing mindfulness. Only then would he be able to level up. He couldn't let anything distract him right now. He had to practice mindful consciousness. His mind and heart had to be in perfect symbiosis in order to break through to the Tianqi layer. Mengqing, Xinyi, his parents etc. kept appearing in his brain. It was because of these thoughts that he couldn't break through to the Tianqi layer. Lin Feng stood up and took a deep breath. Then he left the cave and gazed into the distance. Tianqi, whispered Lin Feng. He should have gone to Tianqi, but he had too many treasures. Now he was too scared to go back, afraid to lose all of his treasures. After all, he was a lot weaker than Zun cultivators. If they wanted to take his treasures, then the situation would be very dangerous. Tianqi, I hope that you won't disappoint me, thought Lin Feng. He could only go to Tianqi because he had nowhere else to go. Otherwise, the people from the East Sea Dragon Palace would eventually find and kill him. His silhouette flickered as he moved towards Tianqi. Back in Tianqi, there was snow everywhere and it was very cold. Back then, the 7 snow eagles returned to Tianqi and all the people on their backs had obtained precious treasures, especially Jun Emoshi and his friends. The Zun cultivators of Tianqi knew that Lin Feng had obtained the Jade Emperor's palace because his friends told them so. After everyone had gone back to Tianqi, the news quickly spread. The disappearance of all those strong cultivators from the mysterious world, and of those who had been waiting outside. Besides, a few corpses had been found as well. Some people had seen Lin Feng kill Duan Wuya as well. Then he had killed some people from the East Sea Dragon Palace and was chased them. Nobody knew what happened in the East Sea Dragon Palace, but they knew Lin Feng was in danger. To sum up, people from Tianqi knew that they were going to draw a lot of people's attention. For one, their cultivators had obtained many precious treasures, and the other reason was that Lin Feng. There were only 2 people who knew how everyone had disappeared: Lin Feng and Duan Wuya. However, Duan Wuya had been killed by Lin Feng in the East Sea Dragon Palace, so Lin Feng was the last one who knew. Lin Feng had too many secrets. Chapter 838. Denouncing Lin Feng. It was freezing cold in Tianqi because the atmosphere was filled with ice qi. On one of the mountains of the main mountain range of Tianqi, there was someone wearing a snowy white robe. She was as beautiful as before, but these days, Tianqi Shui had lost her self-esteem and confidence. She wasn't the pure and holy woman of Tianqi anymore. Even though she had come back safely from the mysterious world and had obtained many treasures and skills, she didn't feel as proud as before. Her heart was wounded. There were too many strong geniuses in Ganyu, and she had thought that she could rival with all of them. But during the real battle, she realized that she could only observe with her strength. No need to talk about those young leaders. They had come back to Tianqi having made fools of themselves. However, amongst them Tianqi Shui was maybe the weakest. She was far from being as strong as Lin Feng. She used to say they weren't disciples of Tianqi, and she used to despise Huang Fulong. Needless to say, the trip to the mysterious world had negative consequences on her psyche. At that moment in the distance there was a powerful qi. Tianqi Shui raised her head and gazed into the distance. There was a silhouette on the horizon, but she couldn't see it clearly because of the snow. That silhouette was extremely quick, so quick that people couldn't even follow it with their eyes. Their steps were incredible, as if they had achieved a perfect unison with the clouds. What a marvelous agility technique, thought Tianqi Shui, surprised. That person streaked across the sky and passed right beside her. A hurricane blew her hair around as they passed her, but she had time to see the face. Lin Feng. That person was Lin Feng, free and unrestrained, moving at such incredible speeds. Lin Feng's speed had drastically increased since the mysterious world. Tianqi Shui had reached the very top of the Xianqi layer, but she couldn't even follow Lin Feng with her eyes. Her self-esteem was even lower now. Lin Feng despised her. The woman who used to be admired and worshipped in Tianqi. Lin Feng's words resonated in her head. You don't deserve someone like Huang Fulong. He's too good for you. In the past, amongst the 7 snowy peaks of Tianqi, Tianxianfeng was the only one which didn't have a palace. It had declined and was the weakest group of Tianqi. Strong cultivators who were recruited didn't want to go there, and ultimately, they were later recruited by the other snowy peaks. However, the days after the journey to the mysterious world, Tianxianfeng had astonished everybody. Almost all of those who had obtained the most extraordinary treasures in the mysterious world were from Tianxianfeng. They had become the underdogs. Tianxianfeng had 3 Zun cultivators, Lin Feng's teachers: the Snow Zun cultivator, the Fire Zun cultivator, and the Sword Zun cultivator. At this time, they had left their private cultivation and went to the great palace on the main peak where they normally lived. Outside of a palace at the top of a peak, there was a great palace that showed no signs of habitation. It seemed abandoned, but all around it there were students talking and studying cultivation. However, that peak seemed like it had gone through a disaster. There was a group of silhouettes at the top, wearing mourning clothes. They were blocking the entrance into the palace. Those people were also members of Tianqi Shui, but they were from Tianshu Feng. Amongst the disciples of Tianshu who had gone to the mysterious world, none of them had come back alive. The reason wasn't that they had been killed by others, but had suffered from internal tensions instead. They couldn't stand that those who had killed Tianshu's people had violated the rules of Tianqi. They had to be punished. However, why would they get punished? In the mysterious world, those Tianshu disciples wanted to kill Lin Feng and his friends. That was what had caused Lin Feng's fury in the first place. Nobody knew exactly what happened in Tianqi, but the offenders wouldn't admit their mistakes. Now, some people from Tianshu were circling a palace. Lin Feng flickered nearby, running in their direction. Lin Feng decided to ignore the crowd around the palace. He was surprised but decided not to bother with it. They turned their heads. They knew Lin Feng's name but they had never seen him. Therefore they didn't recognize him. They just watched as he streaked across the sky towards the palace. Jun Emoshi, Huang Fulong and the group were inside the palace. They all stood up and looked delighted to see Lin Feng again. Lin Feng! Lin Feng! Everybody was shouting Lin Feng's name. They hadn't heard anything about him in quite a while now. They didn't know if he was still alive. They had of course been very worried about him. Lin Feng had made them come back without them, so they were terrified about his outcome. Lin Feng, you're insane. Why didn't you take me with you? Said Huang Fulong smiling. Everybody walked towards Lin Feng. They looked worried as if he had come back injured. Lin Feng smiled in a warm and gentle way. He had really good friends. What a wonderful feeling to come back to. Don't worry, I'm fine, said Lin Feng smiling. Everybody nodded and asked him what had happened. Lin Feng replied with the story about how East Sea Dragon Palace had hunted him but didn't talk about the Death Valley. The consequences were too grave, he had to be careful when talking about it. So you're Lin Feng, said an ice-cold voice from the back of the room. Those who were blocking the entrance to the palace outside in the mourning clothes heard Lin Feng's name, and immediately came inside looking furious. Lin Feng slowly turned around and walked towards them. Those people had encircled the palace and were impolite when he first arrived. It seemed that they hadn't respected Tianqi and its rules. Lin Feng, they are Tianshu's people. When Bai Lishi came back, he betrayed his own group and decided to join Tianshu. He also denounced you and told them that you had killed Tianshu's people. Ever since then, they've been standing around the palace every day all day, whispered Tang Yu in Lin Feng's ears. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly looked cold. What a bastard! Tianqi allowed a group of trivial Xian-level cultivators to encircle the palace and humiliate the empire? Lin Feng asked while glancing back at the crowd. It's not that easy. They have received an order from a Tianshu Zun cultivator. Otherwise it wouldn't have been possible. Yun Feiyang explained. Lin Feng nodded. He understood the situation now. Those people had backing from a Zun cultivator. Tianshu's people had all been killed by Lin Feng in the mysterious world. So naturally they were furious. Now Lin Feng was back. Chapter 839. Piss off all of you. Lin Feng, get the hell out of here, shouted a voice furiously outside of the palace. You killed Tianqi's people, how audacious and shameless. Get ready to die for your offense. You killed disciples of Tianqi, that is an offense. Surprisingly, you came back. Those people all wanted to kill Lin Feng. From inside the palace, Lin Feng looked at the crowd and slowly walked towards. He looked at them in a despising way. Lin Feng, do you know the gravity of the offense you committed? Said someone pointing at Lin Feng. Offense? Asked Lin Feng calmly. Back in the mysterious world, you surprisingly killed people from Tianqi. You killed everyone from the Tianshu group. You violated the rules of our empire, so get ready to pay for your offense. Said that person in a sharp voice while walking towards Lin Feng. Who said that I killed them? Said Lin Feng sounding indifferently, yet his indifference contained some coldness. Bai Lishi saw you kill them. Could it be that you're trying to make up excuses now? Because it's useless at this point. Make up excuses? I'm not, I did kill them, replied Lin Feng as indifferently as before. They all looked even more furious now. But, you're pieces of trash, so who gave you the authorization to tell me that I had committed an offense? Make by Li Shi come here and let's settle accounts. Pieces of trash? Those who said I committed an offense should come here and talk to me directly, said Lin Feng slowly. Could it be that you want to get your revenge now? Said the people from Tianshu. Can't be bothered talking shit with a bunch of nobodies like you. People from Tianshu are all sly. You plotted against me and wanted to kill me outside of Tianshu. Back then, when I killed them and protected myself, everybody saw the incident. So if anyone thinks I committed an offense, make them come here and fight me. Otherwise, you can all piss off, said Lin Feng. How insane was this guy telling them off like that? The only way we're going back is if we take you along, said the people from Tianshu. Shut the hell up, shouted Lin Feng furiously. His voice emitted rumbling sounds which pierced through their ears. Immediately after, Lin Feng furiously shouted, You came here and surrounded the palace, falsely accusing me of an offense. You have gone too far. If you don't piss off right now, I will make you piss off. Are you threatening us? I am, said Lin Feng while walking towards them. His eyes looked like thunder and were filled with murder. Phew, those people deciding what to do. How brutal, now he was humiliating Tianshu's people. I am curious to see how you will make us piss off, said the leader of the group, a cultivator of the 9th Xianqi layer. His facial expression looked ice-cold and was filled with murderous intentions as well. Okay, I will show you. Lin Feng jumped and many shadows of him appeared. They could only see blurry shadows, unable to distinguish the real Lin Feng from those shadows. Boom, a thunderclap sound spread in the air, and a wind was blowing so hard that it hurt like razor blades. That guy's hair was fluttering and his facial expression changed drastically. He randomly punched the air, hoping to get lucky. Get lost, shouted a furious voice as crackling sounds spread in the air. A terrifying strength pierced that guy's bones. A fist crashed into his chest and he was blown away far into the distance. A crashing sound could be heard along with a terrible shriek of pain. Everybody was astonished by Lin Feng's punch. Lin Feng quickly glanced back at them and they started sweating. Since you're not leaving, it looks like I'm going to have to make you leave. Lin Feng jumped again using his agility technique, looking incredible. Boom! Lin Feng, using his agility technique, punched some more of them and blood splashed as they flew off into the distance. Boom boom boom. A terrifying storm started. Those Tianshu people were all being punched away one after the other. Nobody could keep up with Lin Feng nor resist his punch. Lin Feng had become too strong. He possessed the strength of the Haruka and he had eaten a demon Bodhi. Now his muscles were monstrously hard like iron. No cultivator of the Xianqi layer could challenge him. His agility technique. Tang Yu had studied that agility technique and she was already very quick, but Lin Feng was quicker. Tang Yu was smiling in a resplendent way. Lin Feng was so much more talented than her. They were using the same skill, but Lin Feng could pull out more of its potential. How could she know that Lin Feng had studied the real and complete technique? That strength, people were speechless. Lin Feng had absolute strength and seemed capable of crushing the earth. Do I need to bring all of you back to your door? Said Lin Feng while staring at all the people in the distance who were lying and crawling on the ground. Those people were all injured without exception and their faces looked hideous. Lin Feng, Tianshu will never let you off, said the crowd while leaving. Jun and Moshi and the others walked towards Lin Feng and watched as those people left. Lin Feng, those people came because of their friend's death. Maybe they had no right to come and blame you, but now they have an excuse, said Jun and Moshi in a low voice. Even though Tianqi's people were united, Lin Feng had incredible secrets that could draw people's attention. Lin Feng was Lin Feng after all. If he had been a Zun cultivator in Tianqi, nobody would have said anything. Lin Feng's situation was different. He was strong, but he wasn't a core member of the empire. Some people might say that those treasures would be better off in the hands of other people from Tianpichi. It wouldn't be long before stronger cultivators from Tianshu came to exact their revenge. I know. They've already gone so far, so what's the use in hiding anything? Replied Lin Feng. Even if he tried to hide, he couldn't escape. No need to be polite. Chapter 840. Crushing a Tianqi layer cultivator. Behind the palace were normal houses. They looked ordinary and quite calm. In Tianqi, people were valued and free. They could come and leave as they wished. For example, what Bai Lishi had done when changing his group was allowed. Many people were coming and going. Therefore, Tianqi appeared a bit unconventional. The three Zun cultivators didn't ask anything about what happened. They were just practicing cultivation and improving themselves. The stronger they were, the more their empire would attract strong cultivators. There was a simple-looking snow cultivator seated on the snow. He looked quite calm and peaceful. You came back. The snow cultivator opened his eyes and saw Lin Feng walking towards him. He slightly nodded at him. Master, said Lin Feng while nodding. It looked like he wanted to say something. The Zun cultivator shook his head indifferently and interrupted Lin Feng. I am perfectly aware of those things. They are just proud disciples and their behavior is not the best, indeed. But you killed their fellow disciples and they want to get their revenge, it's only normal. They encircled the palace, it's incredible and polite, said Lin Feng. Those people are always very proud, so it is normal. There are different sorts of pride. Look at Tianqi Shui. She has completely changed because she went through some incredible experiences. She faced death and dangers. In such conditions, one will always mature. Now she doesn't act as proud as before because she knows that there are so many geniuses out there, said the old man calmly before adding, Lin Feng, people at the same level as you can't beat you now. But you are not acting proudly because of it. You have faced dangers and risked your life many times to get where you are now. If someone acts proudly in front of you, your pride will also be affected. It's not a bad thing. Pride can make a person's potential come out. When people are proud, they will try to become stronger. Lin Feng was listening carefully and nodded. The old man's vision of life deep. They encircled the palace and you beat them. That was the price. You taught them a lesson and I hope that they will stop acting shamelessly and start acting courageously. Lin Feng smiled wryly and shook his head. The old man's speech left Lin Feng speechless. This time you obtained great treasures in the mysterious world and you became much stronger. You should confine yourself to a room and practice cultivation to break through to the Tianqi layer, said the old man. He didn't talk about Lin Feng's treasures and didn't ask him what he had found. What Lin Feng had found was his. Lin Feng was silently grateful for this. Tianqi was a remarkable place thanks to such people. Okay, nodded Lin Feng. The old man wanted Lin Feng to break through to the Tianqi layer and become stronger. He despised Lin Feng. As soon as he finished talking, a terrifying thunder sounded. The young man sensed a strong wind blow over his body. Lin Feng's fist turned black and contained a terrifying energy. Although Lin Feng's punch hadn't arrived yet, the young man could already sense the terrifying strength. Oh no! The young man's facial expression changed drastically as Lin Feng's fist was about to crash onto him. However, it was already too late. Lin Feng's punch crashed onto him, his bones cracked, blood splashed everywhere, and he was immediately blown off into the distance. Tianshu's people were flabbergasted while watching their fighter fly off. There was no difference between them and cultivators of the Tianqi layer. He was the same, he had also been blown away. Ah! The young man gave a horrible shriek and howled like a wolf. All his bones were broken and his internal organs were crushed. If you can withstand 2 punches, I will spare your life. Otherwise, get lost, said Lin Feng while jumping towards the young man. He then kicked him with his right foot and the young man's silhouette appeared far away, crashing into a mountain. Chapter 841. Together. My cultivation. A horrible shriek could be heard off in the distance. The people from Tianshu ran and appeared next to the young man. They all looked solemn as they turned around and looked at Lin Feng. Their facial expressions looked perplexed. Lin Feng had crippled his cultivation? That young man was the son of a famous Zun cultivator and Lin Feng had crippled his cultivation. When Lin Feng saw all those people look at him, he said indifferently, "The first time I told you to leave, I didn't hurt you, but you've been acting wildly. You keep coming here over and over again to cause trouble, humiliate people, and you even want to kill me. Everybody listen to me very carefully. I crippled his cultivation, but I didn't kill him. That's only because I respect Tianqi." What? You're still not leaving? Does that mean you want me to continue? Said Lin Feng furiously. Ice-cold lights were twinkling in his eyes. The young man whose cultivation was crippled by Lin Feng looked deathly pale, as if he had lost his vitality. He still couldn't accept the fact that his cultivation had been crippled. How cruel. His father was a Zun cultivator and he was a genius. However, because he came to punish Lin Feng, his cultivation had been crippled. Even a Zun cultivator wouldn't have dared do such a thing. "I will kill you," he said furiously. However, his voice wasn't as loud as before. No qi emerged from his body and never would any again. The Zun cultivator was quickly informed about how Lin Feng had crippled his son's cultivation. Very quickly, everybody in Tianqi knew that the Lin Feng had come back. Now there were several people going to the palace where Lin Feng was. Tianshu's people came back as well. This time they were not composed of Xian and Tian level cultivators anymore. There were many Tianqi layer cultivators whose qi was incredible, burning like fire. "Lin Feng!" shouted a terrifying voice from the sky which painfully pierced people's eardrums. That voice seemed like razor blades in the sky. Lin Feng raised his head and looked at the crowd in the sky. "Lin Feng, you violated the rules of Tianqi by killing Tianshu's people. Then you came back to Tianqi as if you had never done anything. Then you injured my people and even crippled a disciple's cultivation. Do you admit your offenses?" said someone extremely loudly. That voice shook the palace. "Admit my offenses?" Tianshu's people kept coming back over and over again to cause me trouble. They even wanted to kill me. According to you, if Tianshu's people cause me trouble and want to kill me, so I should let them do so? Replied Lin Feng while smiling coldly. How audacious! Shouted the voice furiously. A gigantic hand appeared and attacked Lin Feng. Lin Feng dodged the attack using his Xiao Yao agility technique, and disappeared from his initial location. Boom boom boom. Explosion sound spread in the air and the gigantic hand crashed onto the ground and created a crater. You're a little cultivator of the Xianqi layer and you dare contradict me? Do you want to die? Now come with me to Tianshu and admit your offenses. Maybe then I will spare your life, said that Tian-level cultivator. According to you, breaking through to the Tianqi layer makes you an incredible cultivator, but I defeated your Tian-level cultivator. You're really shameless. If everybody in Tianqi were like you, Tianqi would collapse on itself, said Lin Feng. You sure have a glib tongue, but that won't change anything. Come with us, said the Tian-level cultivator while jumping onto the ground. This time Lin Feng's hair and robe were fluttering in with the wind. The Tian-level cultivator's gigantic hand moved straight for Lin Feng to capture him. Come with you, said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. A terrifying fire qi appeared in his hand and started burning. That fire was filled with a monstrously deadly energy. Boom! A handprint appeared on the fire and the fire lost a lot of its strength. However, the fire didn't disappear. Burn! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. His terrifying fire ignited again and headed towards the Tian-level cultivator. The Tian-level cultivator was surprised. His sleeves fluttered and a strong wind brushed against his skin. It seemed like Lin Feng's fire could even hurt him. You dare resist me? The atmosphere was filled with pressure. Lin Feng noticed that the cultivator was furious as well. His body was suddenly surrounded by a green light which shot out at Lin Feng. Stop, someone said from the distance. Lin Feng recognized the voice though. It was the Snow Zun cultivators. He couldn't handle it anymore. Tianshu's people are too shameless. You dare come to my palace and cause trouble. By doing so, you don't respect me, said the voice furiously from the distance. Zun cultivator, the crowd was astonished. A Zun cultivator was intervening, so things weren't going to end quietly. Master Lin Feng violated the rules first. I came here to protect Tianqi. I hope you won't blame us. Protect Tianqi? Since when are you a protector of Tianqi? If you want Lin Feng's life, come straight to me, said the Zun cultivator, seemingly not talking to anyone in particular. His voice was rolling in the air and snowflakes were following the sound waves. A silhouette then slowly appeared in the sky. That person's qi was much stronger than that of a Tian-level cultivators. Their qi looked enigmatic and unfathomable. Who else? Since you're all here, come to me, said the Snow Zun cultivator. In a flash, many silhouettes appeared all around in the sky. They had planned the whole thing from the start, it seemed. Chapter 842. Who committed a crime? Snowflakes were falling from the sky, making things look magical. A silhouette came out of the palace. That person looked extraordinary. Their silhouette was surrounded by snowflakes, but they didn't fall to the ground. Instead they kept floating around them. A Zun cultivator, a representative of Tianqi. It seems like people from Tianji and the 6 other snowy peaks have arrived, said the Snow Zun cultivator while glancing at the crowd, especially at the other Zun cultivators. Brothers, why did you come here? I came here because I was wondering why Tianshu's people were unhappy, said an old man in a green robe. He looked like he stood aloof from worldly affairs. It was difficult to know from his tone of speech if he really meant what he was saying. You know why I came here? Your disciple violated our rules when he killed my disciples in the mysterious world. He is a traitor, so Tianshu's people came here to punish him for his crimes, but he crippled a Tianshu disciple's cultivation. I will bring him back to Tianshu now so he can be punished for his crimes, said the Tianshu Zun cultivator while staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, is that so? Asked the Snow Zun cultivator while looking at Lin Feng, who was standing next to him. In the mysterious world, Tianshu's cultivator said we weren't Tianqi's people and wanted to kill my friends and I. I want to ask the venerable Zun cultivator of Tianshu, what should I have done? Let them kill us? Said Lin Feng indifferently while looking at the Tianshu cultivator. You are so insolent. You surprisingly dare invert right and wrong, shouted that Zun cultivator furiously. His terrifying voice made Lin Feng shake. Since you are always right and I am always wrong, then there is no need to argue. Okay, fine, whatever you say is the truth, said Lin Feng mockingly, which made the Zun cultivator narrow his eyes. He then said coldly, you are very brave. Surprisingly, you actually made fun of me. I want to ask you, are you saying that Bai Lishi, a member of Tianxian, lied? You said it. Bai Lishi was initially a member of Tianxian, and then he left the group and joined Tianshu. Didn't he betray Tianxian? Do you mean that someone who betrayed his own group is more entitled to say the truth than someone else? Said Lin Feng while smiling in a cold way. Indeed, Bai Lishi is a traitor and lied. He betrayed the others for Tianshu and wanted to kill us. How ridiculous. Tianshu's people started first, said Jun Emoshi and the others, confirming Lin Feng's words. You are Lin Feng's friends and you'll just join Tianqi together. How could we trust you? I confirm what they are saying. Tianshu's people attacked first, said a female voice. Lin Feng was extremely surprised. It was Tianqi Shui. You are lying. Has Tianshu ever tried to attack you? You are traitors that kill your fellow disciples. That is obvious, said someone from the Tianshu group. What a traitor and a coward. All you can do is hide, said Lin Feng while glancing at Bai Lishi despisingly. Bai Lishi came out of the crowd and glared at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, you killed your disciples from Tianshu and I saw it with my own eyes. Tianxian's people even helped you. I couldn't stay in the same group as you all, that's why I joined Tianshu. Lin Feng slowly walked forwards and arrived in the middle of the scene. I dare you to come near me and say that again. Bai Lishi glanced at the people from Tianshu and slowly walked towards Lin Feng. He then arrived in front of him and said, why wouldn't I? Bai Lishi, telling lies to cause disharmony between Tianxian and Tianshu. That is the biggest betrayal. Such an offense is unforgivable and the only punishment is death, said Lin Feng, whose eyes were filled with murder. Lin Feng didn't even look at him. He looked at the Zun cultivator and said, since we all have different views on the matter, I would like to ask you, who is the disciple we can trust the most among the 7 snowy peaks? You Tianji of the Tianji snowy peak, said the Zun cultivator indifferently. Everybody agreed. Yu Tianji was the young leader of the Tianji snowy peaks. Besides, he had an outstanding talent. He would someday become a real leader in Tianji. Okay, said Lin Feng while jumping forwards. Bai Lishi's facial expression changed drastically. He wanted to escape, but a gigantic hand grabbed his throat, causing his eyes to almost pop out of their orbits. Lin Feng was audacious and insane. Lin Feng dared act that way in front of the Zun cultivator of Tianshu, let alone everyone else. Insolent, shouted the Zun cultivator furiously. Lin Feng didn't fear him. He looked at him and said, you Tianji arrived already. We won't have to wait for more than a second, so there's need to be that impatient. When Lin Feng finished talking, a silhouette appeared in the sky. It was Yu Tianji and he was surrounded by star lights. Tianqi layer. The crowd was astonished and staring at Yu Tianji. No wonder he was predestined to become a leader in Tianji. Before the mysterious world, he was unable to break through to the Tianqi layer. And now it had been only a few days since he came back from the mysterious world, and in such a short time he broke through to the Tianqi layer. What a genius! Lin Feng was just as surprised as everyone else. Yu Tianji nodded at Lin Feng and to the Zun cultivator. Tianshu's people really attacked Lin Feng and his friends in the mysterious world. Lin Feng just defended himself, said Yu Tianji, and then slightly bowed. Star lights twinkled around him as he disappeared. It seemed like he was practicing cultivation, and while practicing, he had heard what was going on over there. By Li Shi, you wanted to create a disharmony between Tianxian and Tianshu. You are the traitor. You wanted to weaken Tianqi, and this is an unforgivable offense, so you must die, shouted Lin Feng coldly. Lin Feng was really going to kill him. Traitors of Tianqi must be killed without mercy, shouted Lin Feng furiously. Crackling sound spread in the air as a fire ignited and burnt by Li Shi. Do you have any last words? Said Lin Feng while looking at the Tianshu Zun cultivator. His facial expression looked hideous and he said, even if I was wrong about the mysterious world, what is your excuse for having crippled my son's cultivation? If I, Lin Feng, brought people to Tianshu like you did, how would you react? Replied Lin Feng indifferently. The Zun cultivator was speechless. If Lin Feng had brought people and surrounded his palace, he wouldn't have just told them to go away. Things would have been much more complicated than that. He had broken through to the Tianqi layer and acted impolitely. He came here to humiliate everybody and on top of that wanted to take me back to Tianshu to kill me. Not to mention he said I could punch him 3 times in front of everybody. I just punched him twice and crippled his cultivation. You are furious now, so you're trying to find excuses to accuse me of something. I can't say anything in return, said Lin Feng. It was a humiliation for the Zun cultivator. They had all gone to go there to kill Lin Feng, a cultivator of the Xianqi layer, but he had crippled the Tian-level young man's cultivation in 2 punches. And now a Zun cultivator was arguing with Lin Feng, a cultivator of the Xianqi layer. The crowd was astonished as well. Lin Feng didn't sound like he felt guilty at all. It was Tianshu's fault. They had died and it was their problem now. Very good. Surprisingly, you are blaming Tianshu as if I hadn't educated my disciples properly. However, since you killed lots of my disciples, I will still take you back to Tianshu for a few days, said the Zun cultivator after remaining silent for a few seconds. He still wanted to take Lin Feng back to Tianshu. You're humiliating yourself and everyone else in Tianqi. I joined Tianqi because of the harmony in the empire, and for the empire to rise up. I want Tianqi to become powerful and famous in the region. However, you are trying to make the different groups of the empire divide, and thus disappointed me. If everyone were like you in Tianqi, the empire would be in great danger. Chapter 843. Insane swordsman, you want to teach me a lesson, said the Tianshu Zun cultivator when he heard Lin Feng's despising tone of speech. I wouldn't dare, said Lin Feng smirking. Teachers will educate disciples and are one of the factors which make a sect or an influential group powerful. If the leaders are strong, then the group is strong. Tianqi is rising and has started to become very influential in Ganyu. Those who control Tianqi devote their lives to making the empire strong. If the empire remains harmonious, we will never collapse. Tianqi is the biggest peak and the leader of Tianqi is the leader Tianqi. As such, he must be infinitely powerful. Besides, Yu Tianji is a disciple of Tianji. Even though there were tensions between he and I in the past in times of danger, we helped each other out because we cared about Tianqi above all. Only a few cowards without principles like Tianshu's people went to the mysterious world to take treasures for themselves and hurt Tianqi after coming back to Tianqi. I finally understand why the Tianshu disciples are like that. Lin Feng explained slowly, making the Tianshu Zun cultivator's facial expression look worse and worse. Everybody understood what Lin Feng meant. People were secretly thinking that Lin Feng was quite audacious. The Tianshu Zun cultivator slowly turned around and didn't look back at Lin Feng, but at the Snow Zune cultivator. You heard him. He doesn't respect me, so I will bring him back to Tianshu for a few days, but don't worry, I will not kill him. I will teach him that he must respect Zune cultivators. The Snow Zune cultivator slightly shook his head. Tianshu had made fools of themselves. How could he possibly let Lin Feng go to Tianshu? I don't feel like talking much, but you're angry at Lin Feng because you think he doesn't respect Zune cultivators. Those are just words. Your cultivators came here and surrounded my palace, which is a humiliation to me. How could I let Lin Feng go away with you to Tianshu after that? The Snow Zune cultivator's eyes flashed. Tianqi had existed for so many years and no tensions ever existed. But as Lin Feng had said, they hadn't faced danger before. It wasn't until the mysterious world where some people showed their true nature. Lin Feng killed my disciples and he is at the root of all our problems. I admit that my disciples haven't been respectful towards you, so I will teach them respect. If you want to help me educate them, I will be happy to receive your help. However, I will still take Lin Feng back to Tianshu, said the Tianshu Zune cultivator. The Snow Zune cultivator didn't say much, he just shook his head. Taking Lin Feng away was impossible. You want to create a war between Tianxian and Tianshu? As a leader, what are you thinking? Shouted the Tianshu Zune cultivator, which upset all the Tianxian members. Create tensions between the two groups. I thought that Zune cultivators in Tianqi were benevolent. I wouldn't have thought that some Zune cultivators would act like normal people and would act greedy, sly and shameless, said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. Tianshu's people caused troubles because they wanted Lin Feng's treasures. Now they were accusing Tianxian of causing trouble. How audacious, shouted the Tianshu Zune cultivator at Lin Feng. The atmosphere froze and he released an invisible energy shot straight at Lin Feng's head. Weak cultivators couldn't even sense it. Lin Feng suddenly used his broken soul and his bronze bells to protect himself. The bronze bells resonated and Lin Feng's body shook violently. He was even pushed backwards of a few steps. Gotcha! Lin Feng fell down on the ground. Lin Feng controlled his blood circulation to stop his blood from flowing to his face, causing his face to pale. The Zune cultivator could attack people's awareness and had managed to make Lin Feng's soul shake. However, because Lin Feng practiced the broken spirit skill and the godly awareness which the Three Lives demon previously taught him, he was able to protect his awareness. However, he had to pretend that he was injured. Otherwise people would believe that he had obtained incredible treasures and would want to steal them even more. You keep humiliating me over and over again. If I don't educate you, you will never respect your elders, said the Zune cultivator smiling coldly. He looked insane. However, a terrifying sword energy invaded the atmosphere when he finished talking. The Zune cultivators could only sense the sword chi as it seemed to threaten them. Xian and Tian level cultivators all felt like suffocating and were unable to move. Who's that? The Tianshu Zune cultivator's facial expression suddenly changed. Horrible shrieks kept spreading in the atmosphere. Tianshu disciples kept shouting one after the other as they were suffocating. Even though no wounds appeared on their bodies, they felt like blades were ripping them apart. They couldn't bear the pain anymore as they were now covered in a cold sweat and crouched down under the pressure. A little bit more pressure and they would all die. Come out, shouted the Tianshu cultivator furiously. Thunder sounds were spreading in the air. A sword streaked across the sky and someone appeared above the crowd. That person was releasing a terrifyingly sharp sword chi which could kill everyone easily. Jianfeng Zi, what is the meaning of all of this? Said the Tianshu Zune cultivator, but deep in his eyes one could see that he was scared. If he had had to fear only one person in Tianxian, that would be him. That person was insane and his attacks were very frightening. In Tianxian there were 3 Zune cultivators and Jianfeng Zi was the strongest one. Even if Tianxian made a mistake, you would still have nothing to do here. However, I will educate Tianshu's disciples, I think, said the sword cultivator. His facial expression looked as sharp as a sword. Each and every single Tianshu disciple was terrified. Jianfeng Zi, you too arrogant, said the Tianshu Zune cultivator coldly. Arrogant, said the sword cultivator smiling. You Tianshu people came and surrounded my palace and act as if you had done nothing wrong. Then you want to take away my disciple, and now you're calling me arrogant. How ridiculous. Why did you come here, really? Everybody knows why. Tianqi refused earlier already. When disciples are lucky, it's good for them to hold on to their own treasures. Now I will teach Tianshu's people why we can act arrogantly in front of you. When he finished talking, a terrifying sword chi fell down from the sky. Jian Fengzi wanted to attack Tianshu's disciples as well as the Tianshu Zun cultivator. He wouldn't let anyone bully Tianxian's people. Chapter 844. New era for Tianxian. A terrifying pressure was emerging from Jian Fengzi's body which oppressed the crowd under him. It seemed like his entire body had turned into an indestructible sword, and that nothing and nobody could stop him. A man like a sword, his sword chi seemed infinite all around him. He's going to attack. The crowd panicked. Jian Fengzi of Tianxian was surprisingly going to attack the Zun cultivator of Tianshu. He was fearless and insufferably arrogant. The Zun cultivator of Tianshu had humiliated Tianxian, and now he was going to show him and his disciples that such behavior was intolerable. The Zun cultivator of Tianshu pulled a long face as his chi was shaking. He came to punish Lin Feng but hadn't thought that Jian Fengzi would come out even if he attacked. Good, very good. The Tianshu Zun cultivator's facial expression became cold. In a flash, a terrifying blood chi became palpable in the air. Cultivators of the Zun chi layer could turn their blood into a blood spirit, and they could use blood strength to transmit it from generation to generation over thousands of years. His blood chi was now dashing to the skies. At that moment, the crowd could sense the blood chi of the Tianshu Zun cultivator. It felt like it would spill all over the region like an ocean. Zirr. Some subtle sound spread in the air. Jian Fengzi still looked like a peerless sword. A dazzling light appeared above his eyebrows. It was a sharp silver sword that shot straight for the Tianshu Zun cultivator's head, right between his eyebrows. People's hearts were pounding. They gulped down but their tongues were too dry. How insane. Everybody had heard of Jian Fengzi's name 10. Fengzi equals insane, Jian equals sword, but they had never thought that he was this insane. His sword was extremely sharp and he was aiming at the Tianshu Zun cultivator's awareness. Such attacks were even scarier than physical attacks. Such an attack could make the soul fly away or scatter into pieces. Ardish. The Tianshu Zun cultivator roared violently. A dazzling light emerged from his body. Jian Fengzi had gone too far. A vast ocean appeared in front of the Tianshu Zun cultivator's eyebrows. It looked like a tsunami and it headed straight towards the sword. At that moment, many people were shaking violently. If they had been the targets of such attacks, their souls would have been crushed instantly. The sword penetrated into the water and crushed wave after wave without faltering. Between the eyebrows of the Tianshu Zun cultivator, dazzling lights kept twinkling. He closed his eyes and condensed his awareness in order to block the sword. A gigantic wave emerged with a crash. His incredible awareness made the crowd shiver. Their ears were buzzing as if there were millions of ants in them. Everybody was agonizing and were barely able to stand. Gigantic waves kept emerging out of the Tianshu Zun cultivator's body, and the dazzling sword finally began to slow down. Jian Fengzi groaned as thunders came out of his mouth. Dazzling lights appeared between his eyebrows again, and another terrifying sword appeared. It mixed with the awareness of the sword which was in front of him. A terrifying pressure oppressed the whole crowd and their souls seemed to fly away. On top of that, the Tianshu Zun cultivator's wave was destroyed again. The Tianshu Zun cultivator started shaking, and his entire body was covered with cold sweat. Even though his eyes were still closed, his facial expression was the proof that he was struggling. The sword cultivator looked as cold-headed as before and his facial expression looked just as sharp. He jumped forwards and the pressure was as unbearable as before. His dazzling lights invaded the entire atmosphere and his infinite sword energy shot at the Tianshu Zun cultivator. Ah! A terrible shriek spread in the air. The crowd only saw that blood was spilling out of the Tianshu Zun cultivator's eyes, nose and ears. He's insane, he's completely mental. The crowd was still suffocating. Did Jian Fengzi want to kill the Tianshu Zun cultivator? At the same time, the crowd was also surprised by his strength. Even the Tianshu Zun cultivator was no match for him. Boom boom. Incredible amounts of qi kept crashing on the Tianshu Zun cultivator, making him fly away. His body crashed on some Tianshu disciples violently. He couldn't stand up anymore. He opened his eyes and looked furious. With both his hands, he pushed the Tianshu disciples away and stood up. He coughed up some blood, after which he looked even paler. The great and majestic Tianshu Zun cultivator bullied my Xian-level disciple. How incredible! You're really shameless. You've humiliated Tianqi. If you were not a citizen of Tianqi, I would kill you right now. If Tianshu has anything to say, send Tianshu Zi to talk. You are worthless. All you can do is bully an ordinary disciple, said Jianfeng Zi in a despising tone. The Tianshu Zun cultivator's face looked hideous. He was a Zun cultivator, but he was humiliated so badly. He had just lost face. Jianfeng Zi even said that he wanted to kill him, but because they were citizens of the same empire, he didn't. How aggressive and violent, thought the crowd. Jianfeng Zi really was insanely violent. If the Tianshu Zun cultivator made him fight seriously, maybe he would have really killed him. Lin Feng is lucky because Jianfeng Zi is protecting him. If Jianfeng Zi hadn't helped him, he would already be in Tianshu, thought some other people. The snow and the sword cultivators were both protecting Lin Feng. They even humiliated Tianshu and injured their Zun cultivator. They wouldn't be able to take Lin Feng with them, the most outstanding disciple of Tianxian. Jianfeng Zi is right, make Tianshu Zi come here. Otherwise, your disciples will stay in Tianxian, said someone else in the distance. Flames were burning in the air as another silhouette appeared gradually. It was the third Zun cultivator of Tianxian, the fire Zun cultivator. At that moment, he was bathing in flames in the sky, but his facial expression didn't look warm like his flames. He was staring at the crowd from Tianshu. You surrounded our palace and made trouble out of nothing. Then your Zun cultivator bullies my disciple and tries to attack his awareness. How awe-inspiring, right? If Tianshu Zi doesn't give me an explanation, all the Tianshu disciples will stay here and I will take care of them, said the fire Zun cultivator aggressively. Jianfeng Zi wasn't the only one who was furious. In the past, Tianxian had been bullied a lot and it was finally enough. Lin Feng had brought his friends into the mysterious world and solicited many geniuses. They had all obtained great treasures and were all talented. Now Tianxian was rising thanks to them, and nobody would bully Tianxian's people anymore. You went too far, said the Zun cultivator of Tianshu while staring at the three Zun cultivators of Tianxian. He looked furious. Jianfeng Zi had injured all the cultivators of Tianshu, and had injured his awareness. His soul was even injured. Now the Sun Zun cultivator appeared and was bullying them again. He even wanted to keep the Tianshu disciples in Tianxian. We went too far? You must have a bad memory. Did you forget who came here and bullied us? Said the fire Zun cultivator aggressively. He seemed to have become a different person from before. In the past, Tianshu's people used to act extremely aggressive at Tianxian. Now, the three Zun cultivators of Tianxian were protecting Lin Feng because they thought highly of him. A new era had started for Tianxian. He sounded extremely confident and was convinced that he was going to take Lin Feng back to Tianshu. I was expecting a better explanation, but it seems like you're not taking me seriously. No problem, let's fight, said Jianfeng Zi. His terrifying sword appeared again as the atmosphere was invaded by an infinite quantity of sword energy. There's no need to fight. I didn't come to create tensions between Tianxian and Tianshu, even less to fight. I told you everything I do is for Tianqi and for Tianqi to become more powerful. I want our brothers from Tianji to come, said Tianshu Zi indifferently. Now everybody was whispering. Tianshu Zi wanted the leader of Tianji to come. The Tianji Snowy Peak was the main peak where the leaders of Tianqi were. What did Tianshu Zi want to do? Suddenly, a starlight appeared in the sky which was growing bigger and shining brighter. It contained a silhouette of a majestic old man. While he was gradually appearing, it seemed like his silhouette possessed a peculiar color as if he was absorbing the power of the stars. His mind left his body. The crowd was astonished. That wasn't a body, that was his mind. It might be that the Zun cultivator's body was millions of kilometers away. Brother. The few Zun cultivators bowed in front of the old man. The crowd was astonished, having now understood who the old man was. He was the leader of Tianqi and the leader of the entire empire of Tianqi. The leader of Tianqi nodded at the few small leaders and said, I am aware of the situation. Tianshuzi, what is your goal? Explain it clearly. Brother, we are all members of Tianqi. I am also convinced that in the mysterious world, the emperor appeared, and it was said that a disciple called Lin Feng, who recently joined Tianqi, obtained the Jade Emperor's heart. Every influential group will want to attack us because of it. Lin Feng asked everybody to leave him alone to fight against some strong cultivators who are still surprisingly missing. So I guessed that Lin Feng must have obtained some of the emperor's greatest treasures, said Tianshuzi slowly. Finally, he was saying the truth, that his goal was to take Lin Feng's treasures. Brother, since I was able to guess it, don't you think that the other influential groups of the region will also guess that? Nobody knows exactly what Lin Feng obtained. It is also said that Lin Feng killed Duan Wuya, chasing him all the way to the East Sea Dragon Palace. Now, he has to bear the responsibility for his actions. However, he is only a cultivator of the Xianqi layer, and cannot protect his treasures. If other people know about it, they're going to kill him. Continued Tianshuzi. Tianxian's Zun cultivator's face was becoming colder and colder. They could understand what Tianshuzi meant. He wanted to take Lin Feng's treasures. Lin Feng cannot protect the treasures, so his life is in danger. Tianshuzi was speaking louder and louder as he continued, therefore, Lin Feng's only choice is to give his treasures to Tianqi. That is not how we do things in Tianqi, said the Fire Zun cultivator angrily. With his temperament, if someone tried to steal his treasures, Lin Feng would probably abandon Tianqi. We might not do things that way, but we have to be realistic. The Jade Emperor's treasures will attract everyone's attention. Lin Feng will be chased to the ends of the earth by strong cultivators, and we from Tianqi will have to protect him. Besides, Lin Feng is a weak cultivator of the Xianqi layer. He obtained the Emperor's treasures but can't use them properly. They're basically of no use to him. It's a pity, really. If we, the strong cultivators of the Empire, use them, then we can benefit from them at their fullest. We could become the strongest empire in the region. Therefore, Lin Feng needs to understand and support Tianqi's position. We are not treating him unfairly. We are just helping him, said Tianshuzi extremely loudly. If Zun cultivators obtained Lin Feng's treasures, they would become monstrously powerful. That's why you sent people from Tianshu to capture Lin Feng? Asked the Snow Zun cultivator. Many people were nodding around them. They also thought that Lin Feng was, after all, only a Xian-level cultivator. Besides, they were all Tianqi's people, so he had to understand and hand over his treasures. For Tianqi, no matter what I did, everything I planned was for Tianqi now. I asked you to come with hopes that everybody will make the right decision. If 4 of the 7 snowy peaks don't agree with me, then it will represent the decision of the entire empire. I am convinced that my 3 Zun-level brothers of Tianxian will not go against the decision of the entire empire, said Tianshuzi slowly. Lin Feng now looked gloomy. A moment before, he had seen everybody's greedy faces. His fate was in everybody's hands, and his odds weren't looking great. Chapter 846. The Snow Zun cultivator's decision, but Lin Feng didn't think that handing over his treasures was the best thing to do. However, in another group, nobody would have asked him what he wanted. They would have immediately attacked him and stolen the treasures from him. The eyes of the old man bathing in starlight were twinkling. He then nodded. Tianshuzi was proposing to ask everybody's opinion. The leader of Tianqi couldn't decide on his own. He had to protect Tianqi, and the people from the 7 snowy peaks made up a democracy. Tianshuzi, you want to let everybody decide, which is something I agree with, but you must first apologize for everything that you did before, said the old man slowly. Tianshuzi nodded. He didn't care. He walked forwards and bowed in front of the 3 Zun cultivators and Lin Feng while saying, My 3 brothers, I made a mistake and I want to apologize. Lin Feng, we don't want to steal your treasures, but for Tianqi, we have to see what everybody thinks. I hope you can understand. If you were thinking of Tianqi, you wouldn't have asked for everybody's opinion. said the Fire Zone cultivator mockingly. Tianshu originally wanted the treasures for himself. It was only after failing that he asked for everybody's opinion. No matter what you think, I am dedicated to Tianqi, said Tianshu calmly as if he didn't care. He then looked in the air and said, brother, let's make a final decision. The old man nodded and said, okay, the 7 peaks can decide and their decision will represent Tianqi's final opinion. The old man then shook his hand and in a flash, 7 stars appeared in the sky representing the 7 snowy peaks. If you think we should keep Lin Feng's treasures, then leave the stars be. If you don't agree, destroy the star, said the old man slowly. A breath later a star disappeared. It represented Tianxian. Of course they didn't agree. Tianshu shook his hand. Not only did Tianshu's star not disappear, but on top of that, it became even more dazzling. They wanted to take Lin Feng's treasures away. The Snow Zone cultivator jumped up in the air and released a terrifying strength. Suddenly, apart from Tianshu's star, all the other stars disappeared. The crowd was surprised by the old Snow Zone cultivator. What is the meaning of all of this? Said Tianshu before adding, you are not respecting everybody's opinion? I just don't want Tianqi to make an irreparable mistake which will affect us for thousands of years, said the Snow Zone cultivator. Then he looked back at the Star Zone cultivator and said, brother, I have a few questions. Go ahead, said the old man while nodding. If you Tianji were Lin Feng, would we solve the situation this way? Asked the Snow Zone cultivator. I've seen Tianji grow up and he's an incredible genius. Besides, I know his temperament better than anyone else. Everything he does is for Tianqi, and someday he will become a pillar to our state, to the extent that he will become a leader. You understand, right? Thank you for your reply. If Tianji was Lin Feng, Tianshu wouldn't act that way. He wouldn't have asked everyone to decide for him. He only acts that way because it's Lin Feng, but that's not true. It's just a lame excuse, said the Snow Zone cultivator. At that moment he didn't look scared of anything and didn't care about giving Tianshu face or not. You are humiliating me, said Tianshu. Am I wrong? If it were you Tianji, would you act the same way? Tell me, said the Snow Zone cultivator looking at Tianshu in a suspicious way, releasing some ice energy. Lin Feng, how do you dare pronounce Lin Feng and Zhu Tianji in the same sentence? Said Tianshu, whose face looked gloomier and gloomier. He didn't want the leader of Tianqi to lose face. Zhu Tianji was one of his disciples. He might reign over Tianqi in the future. What you just said proves everything. You're saying that you Tianji and Lin Feng are incomparable. First, Lin Feng is one of my disciples. You Tianji belongs to Tianji. That's why you wouldn't dare to make him lose face. Second, Lin Feng is supported by nobody but us 3 old men, and you don't care about us, unlike you Tianji's master. You are playing with power, but what you're saying is not the truth. You're not doing all of this for Tianqi. If you were, you would treat Lin Feng and you Tianji in the exact same way, because that is how we act in Tianqi, said the Snow Zone cultivator, leaving Tianshu speechless. The Snow Zone cultivator had found his weak point. In his eyes, Lin Feng and Yu Tianji were not equal. Tianshu opened his mouth to talk, but the Snow Zone cultivator interrupted him and said, you don't need to talk again, Tianshu. You are the leader of Tianshu, but you are not educating your disciples in the right way. They already don't care about Tianqi. You don't deserve to be a leader in Tianqi, said the Snow Zone cultivator. Then he looked at the Star Zone cultivator and said slowly, brother, everything we do has to be for Tianqi, for the empire to become stronger. And if we want Tianqi to become stronger, we can't rely on old men like us. We will have to rely on the strong and powerful young people. That is what we've always believed in Tianqi. It is because of this philosophy that Tianqi has become so powerful already. Brother, that's why I'm saying that if we got the treasures now and became gloriously powerful, but that would only be temporary. Not to mention our natural abilities have limits. We are old. In 100 years, even in 1,000, who can guarantee that the treasures won't disappear? Who can guarantee that Tianqi will be as glorious as before? Young people are different. They have natural abilities and potential, but they need things to support them. Chapter 847. Transmission. Jian Fengzi's eyes were twinkling. He looked back at his fellows and was surprised as well. All the Zun cultivators understood what it meant for Tianxian. Outside of the Tianxian palace, many Tianxian disciples and many of them were Xian-level cultivators. Many of them were Tian-level cultivators as well. At first they were surprised and then they seemed to understand that the meteorite had something to do with Tianxian. The Snow Zun cultivator walked slowly and stared at Lin Feng. He stretched out his hand and the meteorite flew away at full speed. It then turned into a gigantic stone where strange marks began to appear. Those are holy marks? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. It seemed like Tianqi's people attached a great importance to that stone. There were 2 characters on the stone, Tianxian. Those words were written with a beautiful handwriting. It seemed like those words contained the power of heaven. However, there was a mark on that stone. It's the Tianxian stone. Tianshuzi was astonished. He was fixated on the stone in front of Lin Feng, looking rather greedy. The 7 peaks of Tianqi were extremely old. They had been created by their powerful ancestors and forged over the centuries. Apart from the common treasures which most empires possessed, each peak had its own precious treasure. Tianxian's precious treasure was a meteorite. The ancestors of Tianxian had transmitted that precious treasure at a time when Tianxian was prosperous. It held an incredible power. It was also the most mysterious treasure owned by any of the 7 peaks. It contained an explosive power that the 6 other peaks couldn't understand. Only the offspring of Tianxian could understand it for some reason. Even though most people didn't know what kind of magic it had, the leaders of Tianxian were the 3 old Zun cultivators. The Snow, Fire and Sword Zun cultivators. When they were young and ordinary cultivators, many people didn't want them to become the leaders of Tianxian. However, they obtained the stone and their cultivation level took off with incredible speeds. Very quickly, nobody in Tianqi wanted to fight them anymore. However, after that the stone disappeared. Many people thought that the stone couldn't be transmitted and that Tianxian was going to decline. Nobody knew that the stone was in the Snow Zun cultivator's hands. Lin Feng, kneel down, said the Snow Zun cultivator solemnly. Lin Feng's heart was pounding, shivering even. He was staring at the Snow Zun cultivator's stone and seemed to be hesitating. However, when he looked at the Snow Zun cultivator and saw him look that solemn, he also noticed how old he was. He looked old yet wise and one could see some impatience in his eyes as well. Lin Feng slowly knelt down in front of the meteorite. Lin Feng, this stone is the blood spirit of Tianxian. It has witnessed its climaxes and declines over time. It also represents our traditions, said the Snow Zun cultivator. At that moment, Lin Feng understood what the old man meant. However, he still couldn't believe it, it seemed too sudden. Lin Feng wasn't the only one to feel that way, everybody felt the same way. They were both perplexed and surprised. The traditions of Tianxian. Impossible, shouted Tianshuzi furiously while glaring at the Snow Zun cultivator. He then added, how can you be so careless? That stone is extremely valuable and represents Tianxian. I Tianshuzi refuse. How could you handle such an important matter in such a childish way? I suggest that Tianqi takes your stone and gives it to another snowy peak. Shut the hell up, said the Snow Zun cultivator coldly before adding, I am a leader of Tianxian and this is our history. I can decide who receives its treasures. If you say that you want to take it again and humiliate Tianxian and myself, I will start war between Tianxian and Tianshu. The stone belonged to Tianxian and Tianshuzi, had no sway when it came to taking decisions in Tianxian. Tianshuzi groaned coldly and looked at the star Zun cultivator in the sky. However, the old man looked calm and serene. The stone had been transmitted from generation to generation by the very forefathers of Tianxian. Anyone who didn't belong to Tianxian couldn't intervene in this tradition. Tianqi has existed for a very long time, but I've never heard about anyone transmitting it to a cultivator of the Xianqi layer. Tianxian is coming to its end because of you. It's over for Tianxian. If someone tries to kill him, the stone will disappear and that will be a great humiliation for your ancestors, said Tianshuzi aggressively. Well, I will be an exception for the history of Tianqi, replied the Snow Zun cultivator. Lin Feng, from today on the stone is yours. From today on you are an offspring of Tianxian and you are in charge of transmitting it to the next generations. In other words, you are the leader of Tianxian. Remember that, said the Snow Zune cultivator very seriously. Master, Lin Feng was completely stunned, astonished. He had only broken through to the Xianqi layer. No need to say anything. My fellow said he trusted you, Tianji. His talent and his temperament. I feel the same about you. I trust you and I am certain that you can make Tianxian glorious again, said the Snow Zune cultivator. Lin Feng was moved, he couldn't believe it. The word trust was easy to say but difficult to prove. The Snow Zune cultivator was putting Tianxian's destiny in Lin Feng's hands. In Tianxian I am not as strong nor as talented as my brothers, like Jianfeng Zi. However, when our ancestor passed away, he didn't give him the stone and instead gave it to me. It's because of Jianfeng Zi's temperament, he's too brutal. I am quite calm and discreet. However, I was able to do whatever the elders and my friends required me to do. Lin Feng, when I first met you, I already thought about giving it to you. Now I'm going to do it, said the Snow Zune cultivator with a warm and gentle voice. His brothers had told him that if he ever had a suitable disciple, he could give him the stone. He understood now that a real genius wouldn't necessarily attach tons of importance to them. Lin Feng, I finished explaining my thoughts so you can stand up. Put your blood on the stone. By placing your blood on the stone, you will be giving your oath. Accept the tradition of Tianxian, said the Snow Zune cultivator solemnly. Lin Feng's heart felt very heavy. However, he stood up and cut his finger to spill his blood on the stone. The meteorite became even more dazzling. When the blood penetrated into the meteorite, Lin Feng quickly sensed information being transferred into his body. What a mysterious qi. It contained incredible powers. Transmission, the crowd was astonished. They had witnessed a transmission ritual. Now Lin Feng, a cultivator of the Xianqi layer, was the leader of Tianxian. Chapter 848, The Challenge. People from Tianxian looked perplexed, especially a beautiful girl in the crowd, Tianqi Shui. Her eyes were teary. Back then, she used to be considered as the pure and holy woman of Tianxian. People back then used to think that she would receive the transmission stone, but since Lin Feng had joined them, she wasn't considered so strongly anymore. Actually, everybody knew that Huang Fulong, Lin Feng, Jun Emoshi, Tang Yu and Yun Fei Yang were stronger than her. From that moment, she already understood that if Lin Feng stayed in Tianqi, she would never be the leader of Tianxian. However, she wouldn't have thought that it would happen so soon and that nobody would have the opportunity to fight for it. The Zune cultivator immediately passed on the transmissions to Lin Feng without any arguments. Jun Emoshi, Tang Yu and the others walked forwards and looked at Lin Feng. They were just as speechless but were smiling in a resplendent way. The situation had completely reversed. At the moment, when other people wanted to steal Lin Feng's treasures, the Snow Zune cultivator gave Tianxian's most precious treasure to Lin Feng. Now Lin Feng's social status was completely different. He was the leader of Tianxian and possessed one of Tianxian's greatest treasures. The members of the other snowy peaks would never attack him again. Some people harbored evil intentions, but they didn't dare express their opinions. The Snow Zune cultivator smiled resplendently when he saw that Lin Feng had accepted the transmission stone. He looked like he was relieved from a very heavy burden. He turned around and looked at the leaders of the 6 other snowy peaks. Now Lin Feng has received the legacy of Tianxian, so he is the new leader. He will have opportunities to fight and become the leader of Tianqi. He will now fight for Tianxian. Unless someone wants to betray Tianqi, nobody may attack him. Now that Lin Feng has received the treasure of Tianxian, he wasn't only an offspring of Tianxian but he was a public figure of Tianqi. He had the same status as the leaders of the 6 other snowy peaks, which gave him the right to fight for the leader of Tianqi. I have something to say, said Tianshu Zi, still remaining cold. He would have never thought that the Snow Zune cultivator would do something so outrageous. He would have no opportunity to steal Lin Feng's treasures now. Tianshu Zi raised his head and looked at the Star Zune cultivator and said, "Brother, can we as Tianqi's people transmit the legacy of one snowy peak so carelessly and play with the future of the empire so childishly? If Lin Feng goes outside, he is an ambassador of the empire now. I don't want to see Tianxian bring about its own destruction." I also don't want Tianqi to lose its reputation. What you mean to say is that I don't know how to handle such matters. You are saying that I am childish. That I am bringing about our own destruction? That what I've done is humiliating? Said the Snow Zune cultivator. Surprisingly, Tianshuzi didn't want to give up. Indeed. You gave the treasure to Lin Feng, but first, he had to undergo the exam of the snowy peaks. If Lin Feng is strong enough to go outside, then he will deserve to go out and represent the empire as one of us, said Tianshuzi. He didn't want to give up, so he had to up the ante. How ridiculous. When you became the leader of Tianshu, did you have to undergo any exams? Said the Snow Zune cultivator mockingly. It's different, said Tianshuzi, emphasizing his words. At that moment, the Star Zune cultivator finally spoke. What kind of test are you referring to? Now, all the snowy peaks have young people who have received transmissions. Yu Tianji in Tianji, Zi Yunqing in Tianshu, Lin Feng in Tianxian, etc. In order to become a leader in Tianqi, you can't be weak. I suggest that Lin Feng fight against the other 6. We will see how strong he is and if he deserves to be one of the leaders, suggested Tianshu Zi. And why wouldn't Lin Feng fight against your own son? Shouted Jianfeng Zi extremely loudly. Amongst the young leaders of the other groups, 5 of them have already broken through to the Tianqi layer, including Yu Tianji, who recently broke through to the Tianqi layer. Now you want a cultivator of the Xianqi layer to fight against 5 cultivators of the Tianqi layer? You're ridiculous. You transmitted the legacy to him, you chose to play your hand. If you don't accept this, it means that I am right and that Lin Feng doesn't deserve this ceremony. It also means that the legacy has been transmitted ignorantly, said Tianshu Zi. He wasn't going to let Lin Feng off. You're bullying Lin Feng again, said Jianfeng Zi. If you want to fight, I will fight against you. Brother, let them fight. They can oppress their strength and only use the strength of the first Tianqi layer. If Lin Feng can resist for the duration of 1 incense, I will agree. Otherwise, it will prove that I was right, said Tianshu Zi, ignoring Jianfeng Zi. On top of that, he has already received the legacy, so if he cannot resist for the duration of an incense, it really means that he's weak. How could a cultivator of the Xianqi layer fight against cultivators of the Tianqi layer? Said the Snow Zune cultivator while pulling a long face. He hadn't thought that Tianshu Zi was so shameless. The young leaders of the other snowy peaks were all extremely strong. Making Lin Feng fight against them was too cruel. Even if they had only broken through to the first Tianqi layer, it would be too complicated. Besides, saying that Lin Feng could rely on the legacy of Tianxian was ridiculous. The meteorite was so mysterious that even Zune cultivators didn't understand it. And Lin Feng had just obtained it. He didn't know how to use it any. As expected, you don't trust Lin Feng. I think that you gave him the meteorite only to give him a social status and protect him, said Tianshu Zi while giggling mockingly. For the duration of 1 incense, I agree, said Lin Feng at that moment. Everybody became speechless. Lin Feng agreed to fight. He agreed to fight against 5 cultivators of the Tianqi layer, and 1 cultivator who had broken through to the very top of the Xianqi layer. Very good. It seems like I underestimated you. You are brave. If you pass the exam and manage to resist for the duration of an incense, I will recognize you as one of us. I think that everybody will acknowledge you, said Tianshu Zi as he then continued. But if you lose, then my snow brother will have to make another decision. Lin Feng, said the Snow Zune cultivator while looking back at Lin Feng. Tianshu Zi was shameless. He was definitely going to try and find all the possible excuses to change the situation. If they just ignored him, then he wouldn't be able to do anything. The Snow Zune cultivator hadn't thought that Lin Feng would accept the challenge. I am responsible for Tianxian now that I received the legacy of Tianxian. If I can't protect Tianxian and make it glorious, then I don't deserve Tianxian's legacy. Lin Feng grabbed the gigantic meteorite from one corner and abruptly smashed it onto the ground. Rumbling sound spread in the air as the ground shook. Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling with dazzling lights. He had to pass the test. Chapter 849. Oppressed strength. The Snow Zune cultivator smiled in a resplendent way while looking at Lin Feng. Since you agree, just fight. In the air, the Starlight Zune cultivator nodded and said slowly, since Lin Feng accepts the challenge, get everyone ready. However, Yu Tianji just broke through to the Tianqi layer and his cultivation is still unstable. He can't fight against Lin Feng, so Lin Feng should only fight the 5 others. No problem, said Tianshu Zi while smiling. Amongst the 5 others, 4 cultivators had broken through to the first Tianqi layer. Lin Feng matched them. After so many battles, even a cultivator at the top of the Xianqi layer would find it difficult to fight against them. Yunqing, this battle is crucial and the future of Tianxian is in your hands. You must use your full strength and show no mercy. If Lin Feng can't handle it, it means he doesn't deserve to receive the legacy. Showing mercy would be a big mistake, said Tianshu Zi to Zi Yunqing. He sounded like he was being benevolent and was trying to help Tianxian. I will use my full strength, said Zi Yunqing while nodding. His eyes were twinkling. At that moment, the 4 others walked out from the crowd. Their chi was incredible and they looked enigmatic, unfathomable. As if they were one with the earth. They could borrow the strength of the earth and sky. Oppress your own strength. Your strengths cannot exceed that of the first Tianqi layer, said the Star Zune cultivator. Everybody nodded and surrounded Lin Feng. They were of course not going to use their full strength. This battle wasn't only about Tianxian. It was also about them and the glory of their own snowy peaks. Lin Feng was a Xian-level cultivator. If they needed their full strength to defeat him, it meant that their reputation was undeserved. Fight, said the Star Zune cultivator. In the air an incense appeared that was slowly burning. Lin Feng had to resist for the time of an incense. Brother, be careful, said a voice. Then Zi Yunqing's silhouette flickered as his hand assaulted Lin Feng's direction. It contained a terrifying energy and whistling sounds were spreading in the air. A hurricane started up as the space became completely distorted. That was the strength of the Tianqi layer. They could borrow the energy of the earth and the sky. The others all attacked as well. In a flash, a monstrously oppressive pressure surrounded Lin Feng. He had the impression that he would suffocate under the pressure. Lin Feng took a step forwards and his silhouette became an illusion. His steps were incredible. He was dodging the oppressive energies with speed and elegance. He was moving so fast that his shadow spawned clones in the air. The Star Zune cultivator was surprised as he looked at the snow on the ground. The pattern created by Lin Feng's footsteps on the snow was interesting. Of course, only the Zune cultivators could understand what was going on. Lin Feng's 5 opponents also possessed some great agility techniques. Terrifying energies dashed to the skies and assaulted Lin Feng, all of which contained different intents. Freeze, shouted one of them. The entire area froze as some ice shards targeted Lin Feng with incredible speeds. Lin Feng jumped into the air and continued using his agility technique. It seemed like he was dancing more than he was dodging. That's the Xiao Yao agility technique, the Star Zune cultivator finally decided. Lin Feng was at the top of the Xianqi layer, and could already use the Xiao Yao agility technique so well. No wonder Lin Feng had accepted to fight. He could use the Xiao Yao agility technique. It seemed like he had gone through a lot of experiences in the mysterious world. Surprisingly, he had stolen the Xiao Yao agility technique from someone, and learned it to an incredible degree. He couldn't know that Lin Feng had learnt the agility technique from the demon in the Death Valley. Lin Feng dodged another attack and accelerated. He was moving even faster now. Then a terrifying sword appeared. The sword intent was astonishing. Lin Feng's sword seemed to be targeting the Xianqi cultivator. That cultivator was releasing their intent at Lin Feng. But Lin Feng remained calm as he stretched out his hand. Lin Feng crushed the intent with his fist. A cultivator of the Xianqi layer couldn't rival Lin Feng's raw strength. That cultivator immediately groaned as Lin Feng crushed the intent. He was now sensing a terrifying physical strength which oppressed him. Lin Feng's strength was incredible and it was purely strength. The Xian-level cultivator felt like he was facing a mountain. Boom! A terrifying sound spread in the air as the Xian-level cultivator was blown away by Lin Feng's attack. He crashed into the crowd. Now Lin Feng was fighting 4 cultivators. While the other had been blown away, the 4 others were still attacking. Lin Feng jumped higher up in the sky and moved easily. Fuck! Cursed the 4 others silently. They all condensed strength which shot at Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng's agility technique was too powerful. They had oppressed their strength to the first Tianqi layer, and couldn't use their strength of the second Tianqi layer. Surprisingly, with the strength of the first Tianqi layer, it was difficult to fight Lin Feng. They looked at the incense, half of it had already burnt. Piece of trash. Can you only avoid our attacks? You're a humiliation for Tianxian. You don't deserve to be a leader, said one of those cultivators when he saw that they couldn't catch up with Lin Feng. Lin Feng immediately turned around and examined the people chasing him. I don't? Let's deal with you first then, said Lin Feng, smiling devilishly. He stopped running as his entire body turned into a mountain. He was going to see how strong his flesh and muscles were. Lin Feng shook his head, and the one who had just insulted him sensed a terrifying pressure crash onto his body. Lin Feng's 5 fingers were like mountains. However, he was a cultivator of the Tianqi layer. How could he flinch in front of a cultivator of the Xianqi layer? Boom, boom, boom. The atmosphere was shaking as qi was rolling in waves. Physical strength dashed to the skies. The earth and the ground were shaking. Supreme handprint, shouted Lin Feng furiously. His terrifying hand attack seemed like it could destroy a mountain. His 5 fingers diffused strange lights. His attack didn't contain any demon qi. Lin Feng shouted the name of his attack, but it wasn't actually a skill. He just wanted to hide his true strength. Boom! The earth and the ground was shaking. The silhouette of Lin Feng's opponent streaked across the sky like a meteor and crashed into the ground. Half of his body was in the ground. Lin Feng crushed a cultivator of the Tianqi layer. What a terrifying skill, thought the crowd while staring at Lin Feng. How could they know that Lin Feng hadn't used a skill? Chapter 850. Soul Bell. A little bit more than half of the incense had burnt and nobody felt like fighting Lin Feng anymore. 2 cultivators had already been defeated. At that moment, Lin Feng was in the sky and whistling sounds were spreading in the air. Who still wants to see if I'm strong enough? Said Lin Feng while staring down at the 3 other opponents. He looked violent and aggressive, to the extent that the others wouldn't look at him in the eyes anymore. From one second to another, he had completely changed. Now they were staring at him with surprise. They had to be careful, they couldn't underestimate Lin Feng anymore. They were the same as the one who was just crushed into the ground. They were also relying on the strength of the first Tianqi layer. I'll taste your supreme handprint, said one of them while releasing some battle energy. His long hair and clothes were fluttering in the wind. He jumped in the sky and released incredible strength. At that moment, Lin Feng felt like he was facing a large mountain. Dong! Dong! That person jumped again. He was only 3 meters away from Lin Feng. One more step and he would arrive next to Lin Feng. Mountain print! Shouted that cultivator furiously. He stretched both his hands and from between them a terrifying mountain appeared. It was 100 meters high and pierced through the clouds. Surprisingly, it's the Tian-level mountain print skill of average quality. What a terrifying strength. This time Lin Feng's supreme handprint is useless, thought the crowd. Even though that cultivator was oppressing his own strength, it didn't have any impact on his understanding of cultivation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to use the gigantic mountain print with only the strength of the first Tianqi layer. Lin Feng was doomed. Supreme handprint, shouted Lin Feng furiously. Surprisingly, Lin Feng attacked again with the same attack. Boom! A terrifying explosion sounded. It was so loud that it hurt people's eardrums. The crowd only saw Lin Feng's silhouette being blown away and they gulped down. They were relieved. If Lin Feng had been able to resist the gigantic mountain print attack from a Tian-level cultivator, that would have been too strange. Lin Feng had probably been badly injured. However, very quickly they were astonished. They watched as Lin Feng jumped up again and looked at his opponent. Your physical strength doesn't suffice. Try again. That guy, the crowd was watching Lin Feng. They couldn't believe their eyes. Lin Feng's opponent was stunned too. He jumped forwards and condensed his strength again. Another gigantic mountain print appeared, challenging Lin Feng's strength. Boom! Lin Feng used his hand attack again. Rumbling sounds and even cracking sounds spread in the air. Lin Feng jumped again. He didn't wait for the mountain to get near. He just threw himself at it. Rumbling and explosion sounds spread in the air again. The sounds were as loud as before and people couldn't stand it anymore. Their ears were bleeding. Boom boom boom, supreme handprint. Lin Feng used his hand attack again as the gigantic mountain print broke in two. This time the Tian-level cultivator groaned and coughed up some blood. Lin Feng jumped up again and used his Xiaoyao agility technique. He appeared in front of his opponent, who opened his eyes widely, unable to defend himself. Go. Lin Feng didn't punch his opponent and told him to leave. He had 2 opponents left. At that moment, 3/4 of the incense had burnt and 3 people had already lost. Tianqi's people were astonished. They couldn't believe that those 3 were defeated by Lin Feng. Even if they had oppressed their own cultivation level, they still had the strength of the first Tianqi layer. Lin Feng was only a Xian-level cultivator, so they thought that Lin Feng wouldn't be able to resist for any amount of time. Now the question was, would those people be able to resist Lin Feng with the remaining time? Boom boom boom. The crowd saw Lin Feng jump forwards towards the other 2. This time Lin Feng was taking the offensive. A terrifying sword chi invaded the atmosphere. Lin Feng was using his level 7 sword intent. Go! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. In the air, 1,000,000 swords condensed and moved towards Zi Yunqing and the other cultivator. The earth and sky were emitting whistling sounds under the oppressive sword energy. Zi Yunqing's silhouette flickered, but the sword light became larger and attacked the other one. Even if Lin Feng was only a Xian-level cultivator, as before, level 7 sword intent was impressive. That person moved his arm and it seemed like a crystal appeared. Subtle sounds spread in the air as the crystal broke and the sword continued moving towards him. Enough! I can't stop you with the strength of the first Tianqi layer, said that person. He then stopped oppressing his own strength and a terrifying ice chi emerged, freezing everything around him. Crystals appeared in front of him and cracking sounds were heard. The gigantic sword continued moving forwards through the crystals, one after the other. The sword stopped as it arrived in front of that cultivator's head and disappeared. That person stopped oppressing their own strength and acknowledged Lin Feng's strength. He went back to his place in the crowd defeated. The crowd acknowledged him as well. With the strength of the first Tianqi layer, it wasn't possible to resist Lin Feng. His sword intent was level 7. His supreme handprint was incredible and his agility technique was marvelous. Only one fighter was left, Zi Yunqing from Tianshu. But at that moment the crowd was convinced that he had no hope anymore. Unless Zi Yunqing used his full strength, he had no way to defeat Lin Feng. Otherwise there would be no difference with the others. Lin Feng was surprisingly strong. He was much more talented than all the other young leaders. Maybe he really would make Tianxian glorious again. He's really strong because he obtained the meteorite. I wouldn't have thought that he would become so powerful. Yunqing, we can't fool around anymore. Let's use our treasure as well. Use the soul bell. Otherwise, the battle won't be fair. Tianshuzi decided to persuade the fight again. From his hand appeared a golden light which he threw at Zi Yunqing, who immediately grabbed it. It was Tianshu's treasure. Tianxian's people were astonished, especially the 3 Zun cultivators. Tianshuzi was going way too far. Surprisingly, he was saying that Lin Feng was only so strong thanks to Tianxian's meteorite. This was no longer a competition of fairness, but an excuse to defeat Lin Feng. Zi Yunqing was a Tian-level cultivator. Wasn't this unfair already? In the history of Tianqi, we've never had such vermin, said the Snow Zun cultivator. He hoped that Lin Feng could resist this final assault. Chapter 851. New page. Zi Yunqing grabbed the bell and smiled. A moment before, he had seen Lin Feng's terrifying strength and considered that his strength at the first Tianqi layer wasn't enough. He was scared to end up like the others. However, now that he was using the treasure of Tianshu, Lin Feng was definitely going to lose. Lin Feng was not happy with Tianshu Zi as he jumped forwards. He used his agility technique to appear in front of Zi Yunqing almost instantly. He condensed some terrifying strength in his fist and punched the air in his direction. Zi Yunqing smiled as he condensed pure qi into the magical bell. It resonated loudly and made Lin Feng shake with pain. Ding ding dong dong. The bell resonated in Lin Feng's brain, giving him hallucinations. He used his broken soul technique and protected his awareness with his ancient bell. However, it seemed like the sound waves contained an evil strength which assaulted both his intent and oppressed his soul. Lin Feng ran away and put his hands on his ears. The magic item of Tianshu was as expected, extremely powerful. Use the bell to oppress his soul and stop him in his tracks. Listen to my advice, said someone to Zi Yunqing. Surprisingly, it was Tianshu Zi giving more precious pieces of advice. Zi Yunqing started making the item resonate as golden lights appeared and shot at Lin Feng. The sounds were so loud that they hurt people's eardrums as well. Even though Zi Yunqing wasn't attacking them, the sound waves were still hurting them. Boom! Lin Feng's brain was shaking as many of his broken souls were dying by the sound waves. At the same time, his intent was being crushed. The golden lights around the bell were becoming more intense. The sounds were getting louder and louder. Bright, golden lights were surrounding Lin Feng's body. The bell could grab people's soul and constrict them. Without a soul, a cultivator became an empty shell. If the soul of a cultivator was constricted, the cultivator couldn't maintain awareness anymore and couldn't do anything. Lin Feng released some terrifying fire and an oppressive strength which both cracked around him. Lin Feng then took out his stone with the word seal inscribed on it. Go! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. The stone targeted the bell and turned into a gigantic stone. The gigantic seal seemed like it could contain most of the pressure. The ancient demon seal stone dated back to the antiquity, and its sealing power was vast. Even though Lin Feng only possessed a small piece, it was enough. A buzzing sound spread in the air as the demon seal stone sealed the bell. At the same time, Lin Feng raised the Tianxian meteorite and it looked like a mountain was falling from the atmosphere. You seem to have forgotten that we Tianxian's people also have a treasure, said Lin Feng. He then ran forwards and landed in front of Zi Yunqing. In a flash, it seemed like the earth turned dark. At that moment, Lin Feng was holding a gigantic meteorite, the size of a mountain. Die! Lin Feng threw the gigantic meteorite at Zi Yunqing. Rumbling sounds and star lights were twinkling in the atmosphere. At the same time, a terrifying strength oppressed Zi Yunqing's body. The demon seal stone was oppressing the bell, making Zi Yunqing become desperate. At that moment he could sense the power of the Tianxian item. A terrifying qi emerged out of Zi Yunqing's body. His pure qi flowed with an incredible speed, and he was no longer restraining his cultivation level anymore. His strength was back to that of the second Tianqi layer. Bombarding handprint! Shouted Zi Yunqing furiously. Both his hands turned into bombarding handprints and attacked the Tianxian item. However, while punching the meteorite, Zi Yunqing was propelled backwards. Lin Feng smiled coldly as he raised his meteorite again. A terrifyingly oppressive power fell from the sky. Boom! A terrifying strength crashed onto Zi Yunqing's body, making his blood start boiling. The crowd was speechless. Zi Yunqing was using the strength of the second Tianqi layer, but Lin Feng still had the advantage. No wonder the old Snow Zune cultivator trusted Lin Feng and had put the future of Tianxian in his hands. He had incredible natural abilities. Boom boom boom. The Tianxian meteorite was oppressing Zi Yunqing, whose mouth was now dripping blood. His entire body had been crushed into the ground and many of his bones were broken. The incense had almost finished burning by now. Cling ling ling. A strange ringing sound suddenly could be heard. The soul bell had surprisingly broken free from the demon seal stone and appeared above Lin Feng. It suddenly turned into a gigantic golden bell, and 7 rays of light appeared around Lin Feng. They turned into terrifying rays of physical strength and attacked Lin Feng, again making his soul shake violently. He had lost a few broken souls already. At that moment he couldn't move and couldn't use his powers anymore. How shameless! Shouted Jian Fengzi furiously. His sword qi dashed to the skies and he jumped forwards. Obviously Zi Yunqing hadn't done that. Zi Yunqi was being oppressed by Lin Feng's energies. Tianshu Zi could only have done that. Wait, said the Snow Zune cultivator while preventing Jian Fengzi from attacking, surprising the latter. With that he stopped moving. He knew that the Snow Zune cultivator wouldn't do anything, so Lin Feng was still in danger. The bell was still ringing and Lin Feng could sense that his soul kept crying. His 9-dragon celestial spirit appeared and was roaring furiously as it dashed to the skies. However, it too was oppressed by the bell and quickly fell back down again. The Tianxian meteorite turned back into a stone and moved back to Lin Feng. An incredible strength emerged out of it and Lin Feng sensed it. It was a great feeling. The strength of the earth and the sky was pleasantly radiating from it. It seemed like that stone was a bridge between him and the universe. Lin Feng could understand the mystical powers of the universe thanks to the stone. Around him everything became more distinct and he could sense the smallest details. The leaves floating, grains of sand moving, the snowflakes falling, he could also sense vitality. With this sudden understanding, strength started flowing in his body. It was as if he was one with the earth and sky, a true fusion. It was similar to his world of darkness. However, it was even more mystical and marvelous than those two feelings. Cling ling ling. The bell was still ringing in Lin Feng's brain. His other spirit moved as well. It was his book spirit. The 7 rays of light were becoming more dazzling now. One page of the book spirit started moving. Each time the bell rang, that page wanted to turn over even more. Seemed like it was going to turn. Cling. Finally, the bell rang once more and the page started to turn. Chapter 852. Great surprise and the Zune cultivator's fury. Lin Feng's book spirit was finally taking action. Each time it turned a page, Lin Feng would be pleasantly surprised. The first time he ended up with his world of darkness and was able to sense everything very clearly in his surroundings, and enabled him to understand skills much faster than before. The second time he obtained a sword which was perfect for him, a black sword, his so-called killer sword. The third time his book spirit came into play, the all-conquering Black Lotus was born. It contained a terrifying power, and enabled him to challenge cultivators much stronger than him. Lin Feng inspected his book spirit and found nothing, a black hole. It was a vast, black and desolate world seemingly without anything interesting. What's going on? Thought Lin Feng surprised. What was that blackness? Ding! The bell resonated in his brain again and Lin Feng shook violently. His face was deathly pale at this rate. Fortunately, the Tianxian meteorite contained an incredible strength which was protecting his soul. Brother! Jian Fengzi saw that Lin Feng's face had turned deathly pale, so he wanted to help him. However, the Snow Zune cultivator shook his head. The Tianxian meteorite is an incredible treasure with more than enough physical strength. It is so mysterious that even I can't understand it very well, but in any case it can help Lin Feng obtain what he wants. Just wait. Jian Fengzi was surprised and looked back at Lin Feng. He had heard about the mysterious powers of the stone in the past. However, even some Zune cultivators were not able to take full advantage of it because of its mysteriousness. Surely Lin Feng was less capable of using it than them, and now the situation was getting even more dangerous. Without Tianshu Zi, that battle would have finished much earlier and Lin Feng would have defeated the other cultivators. Lin Feng was extremely talented. Now, even though Zi Yunqing had recovered his power of the second Tianqi layer, Lin Feng still had the advantage. He jumped up in the air and threw himself at Lin Feng while releasing a terrifying qi. Lin Feng moved away. He was still inspecting his mysterious spirit, and using the power of the Tianxian meteorite to protect himself. When Lin Feng sensed that Zi Yunqing was throwing himself at him, he raised the meteorite to block his opponent's advance. A terrifying oppressive strength was directed towards Zi Yunqing. Rumbling sounds were still sounding. Zi Yunqing's body was hit and blown away by Lin Feng's fist. What's going on? The crowd was astonished. How was that possible? How could Lin Feng use the strength of the earth and sky to overpower Zi Yunqing only by punching him? Even Zi Yunqing, who had broken through to the second Tianqi layer, couldn't use the strength of the earth to such an extent. Lin Feng was just as surprised with the exchange. Lin Feng guessed that he wasn't using his own strength a moment before. He used that of the earth and the sky. It was as if he fused together with his surroundings, with the earth. It's the power of the Tianxian stone. Lin Feng was convinced that it was thanks to the meteorite. Lin Feng suddenly had another bizarre yet marvelous feeling. His book moved again and it seemed to be attracting qi as if his spirit was absorbing the power of the meteorite. The feeling became even more intense as the mysterious strength contained in the stone was flowing into Lin Feng's spirit. From the blackness which had appeared on the new page of his spirit, a light suddenly appeared. Boom! The soul bell was still assaulting Lin Feng's soul, but the meteorite was still releasing its incredible powers to soften the blows. At the same time, its incredible strength was flowing into Lin Feng's spirit. From that blackness, more and more lights were appearing. A snowy mountain appeared and stars were twinkling. There were many different patterns appearing. It looked like the world around him and they kept changing in an unfathomable way. Everything was appearing clearly now. Is that the power of the meteorite? Thought Lin Feng. Was the meteorite so powerful that it could make a world appear in his book? In the past, Lin Feng would appear in a specific world of his own, and could understand his surroundings. At that moment, Lin Feng remembered what the Snow Zune cultivator said. It was an incredible treasure. Even Zune cultivators were unable to understand all of its mysteries. However, the meteorite made the world around him appear in his book, giving Lin Feng a feeling of superiority, like he was reigning over the region. It's time for the Tianqi layer. Lin Feng concentrated as his entire body fused together with his surroundings. With the earth and sky, Lin Feng became an authentic part of his surroundings. He was an element of nature. His soul and the earth were in symbiosis. Lin Feng's awareness had become extremely calm and peaceful. In fusion with the earth, he also possessed godly awareness. He rose up in the air and looked like he was standing aloof from worldly affairs, as if he hadn't existed at all. In the air around him, pure qi was whistling and penetrating into his body. His body was sucking it all in from the air. That qi quickly became a vortex. His pure qi wasn't enough, so he had to borrow the strength of the earth and the sky. Suddenly, Lin Feng broke through to the Tianqi layer. People were astonished and shaking. Not only had Lin Feng surprised everybody with his incredible strength, now he had broken through to the Tianqi layer as well. The bell was still ringing and surprisingly, Lin Feng was becoming stronger. Cling ling ling. The bell kept resonating. The Snow Zune cultivator's long hair was fluttering in the wind. He was furious as he was releasing some qi. Lin Feng was about to break through to the Tianqi layer and Tianshu Zi. That bastard wanted to attack him. The Snow Zune cultivator jumped and appeared in front of the soul bell. Then he began attacking it. How audacious! You even dare attack the precious item of Tianshu! Shouted Tianshu Zi furiously, but inside he was smiling. He then released his awareness which fused together with the bell, and he attacked the Snow Zune cultivator. Tianshu Zi, I don't like causing trouble, but do you really think that I am not as strong as you? You're just a loser, said the Snow Zune cultivator smiling coldly. Then his awareness turned into a terrifying kind of snow which enveloped the bell. Tianshu Zi couldn't react fast enough. It seemed like his awareness was frozen, as he immediately turned pale. How is that possible? Tianshu Zi couldn't believe what was happening. How could the Snow Zune cultivator's awareness be so strong? Chapter 853. Sealed for a year. Even though the snow cultivator held an inferior cultivation level, he possessed a stronger awareness and had frozen the soul bell. Now the amount of awareness which Tianshu Zi put inside the bell was frozen along with it, and his soul was injured because of that. Break! Shouted Tianshu Zi furiously. Some of his awareness turned into golden bells and made the air around the soul bell shake. Gotcha! The Sword Zune cultivator appeared in front of him. His awareness turned into a sharp sword and cut through the golden bells. At the same time in the air, a terrifyingly sharp sword fell down. Dazzling lights were twinkling everywhere now. You really think that our meteorite is so useless? Even though my brother's attacks aren't as powerful as mine, his awareness is incredibly powerful. Even with your soul bell, you can't do anything, said Jianfeng Zi while his sword was still falling from the sky. Tianshu Zi abruptly moved backwards. That soul could really kill him. Tianshu Zi yelled furiously and released qi which dashed to the skies. Around him, snowflakes flew away as he raised his 5 fingers and a gigantic hand appeared in the AI. It was supposed to catch Jianfeng Zi's sword. Break! The sword released a myriad of lights that seemed like it wanted to tear through anything in its way. That powerful hand was destroyed and the sword continued falling. Piss off, shouted Tianshu Zi while pulling a long face. He released another attack as a vortex appeared which absorbed everything around it like a black hole. The crowd couldn't stand it, it was unbearable. They all moved backwards to stay safe. Finally, the sword disappeared. The Zun cultivators' attacks were incredible. They had to use their full strength just to watch. But even a superficial look at the sword was enough to understand Jianfeng Zi's power. If Tianshu Zi attacked again, Jianfeng Zi would probably lose control of himself. The Snow Zun cultivator and the Fire Zun cultivator appeared in front of the group of people from Tianshu and looked at them coldly. The other Zun cultivators of Tianshu rose up in the air. It seemed like a war was about to start. Stop fighting, said the Star Zun cultivator in the sky. He looked furious. He glanced at them and everybody calmed down. Tianqi has always been peaceful and prosperous. Don't forget your beliefs and your purpose, said the Star Zun cultivator furiously. Brother Tianxian keeps bullying us. They stole my bell and they truly despise us, said Tianshu Zi. Now they don't want to give back my bell. I will seal the bell for a year. If Tianshu continues to act this way, then there is no need to give it back, said the Snow Zun cultivator. Tianshu Zi remained silent but he pulled a long face and looked at the Star Zun cultivator saying, Brother, you see? Tianxian wants a war. They want to destroy Tianshu. What a shameless dog. Curse the Snow Zun cultivator. Tianshu Zi was too shameless. Brother, you keep lying all the time. Tianxian has been patient enough. Surprisingly, you're a leader and you keep acting so shamelessly. You even attacked my disciple when he was about to break through to the Tianqi layer. You shouldn't even be a leader for Tianshu anymore, said the Snow Zun cultivator. This time he couldn't hold himself back anymore. Tianshu Zi had gone too far. The old star cultivator said indifferently, Tianxian can take care of the soul bell for a year. The calm voice of the old man made many people's hearts shudder. It meant that the Star Zun cultivator was on Tianxian's side. Everybody knew that Tianshu Zi had gone too far. Back everybody, said the Star Zun cultivator. The Snow Zun cultivator and the Fire Zun cultivator smiled and moved back while still protecting Lin Feng. At that moment, Lin Feng's soul started changing. His perceptions were particularly acute. Incredible amounts of pure qi from the sky and earth was penetrating into his body, and he was bathing in incredible lights. Leaving the Xianqi layer and breaking through to the Tianqi layer was something marvelous to behold. After a short while, the terrifying pure qi became calm again. But the crowd could still sense that things were changing inside of Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng opened his eyes and smiled resplendently. He had finally broken through to the Tianqi layer. In the end he could thank Tianshu Zi. Because he attacked him with the soul bell, it had awakened his book spirit and the power of the meteorite. The meteorite fused with his spirit and enabled him to break through to the Tianqi layer. Of course, without the Tianxian meteorite, Lin Feng wouldn't have been able to do anything. He broke through to the Tianqi layer. The Snow Zun cultivator was smiling just as resplendently as Lin Feng. Tang Yu and Lin Feng's other friends were all smiling as well. Besides, Lin Feng was instructed with the secrets of Tianxian. He had received the Tianxian meteorite and had broken through to the Tianqi layer. Everything was happening so smoothly and Lin Feng was very happy. Lin Feng, show us your strength. Show us that Tianshu's people are pieces of trash, said Huang Fulong, who was still upset with Zi Yunqing. Zi Yunqing was instructed with the secrets of Tianshu and had received the soul bell, but he was being humiliated. In front of Lin Feng when he still possessed the power of the Xianqi layer, he couldn't do anything. So now that he had broken through to the Tianqi layer, he was going to be even more terrifying. Great minds think alike, brother, said Lin Feng. He turned around and looked at Zi Yunqing. Lin Feng had to exact revenge. While breaking through to the Tianqi layer, Lin Feng had forgotten about everything. Now that he could think clearly again, he knew what to do. Tianshu's people despised him. Zi Yunqing had to use his strength of the second Tianqi layer again because Lin Feng was going to be merciless. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.